City Commission meeting to order July 7, 2008. Call roll, please.
Stevens. Sharan.
Aye. Here.
O'Neill. Mills.
Here.
Collier.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Cole.
We have quorum. Thank you. We have our invocation tonight by Reverend David Henry from Calvary Baptist Church. All who wish to, please rise.
Let us pray. Oh, Heavenly Father, how excellent is your name in all the earth. We gather here this evening in these very sacred halls so these men and women would look over the business that you have appointed them. And Father, we pray that you will visit them with your wisdom from on high. We pray you will give them strength and determination, dear God, that the decisions that are made would be able not only to stand the test of time, but to withstand the test of times. And we pray that you might give them very clear insight into the judgments that they would need to make. Father, we pray that the citizens of this community would be for the better. Our families would be strong. Our children would be strong and safe, and for our adults, senior adults, to be able to live in peace and tranquility. We pray that this sacred hour that we have entrusted to you, Father, that you would guide our hearts, our thinking, and our minds. We pray not only for the leaders, but we pray for the rest of us as we be a part of this process. We just pray that you would give us all direction and guidance and self-control so that the business of the people will be administered in a very careful and sober manner. We thank you so much for the wisdom that you give the men and women to lead in this country. Oh Lord, oh Lord, how excellent is your name. Amen.
Please join me in the flag salute. Attention, position, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend Henry. Okay, number one, consider approval of agenda.
Motion to approve agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson. Second by Commissioner O'Neill. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill. Mills.
Aye.
Sharan.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
We skip somebody.
Oh,
Did we skip? Oh, Collier.
We used it up.
I knew I missed somebody.
Okay, the motion officially carries. Okay, number two, consider approval of consent agenda.
I'd like to pull item D, please.
Which one?
D.
Okay. And I would like to pull item NC for some discussion. Anything else?
I'd like to pull item I,
All of I?
all of I, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Anything else? Motion to approve the balance.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schran. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
Sharan.
Aye.
O'Neill. Mills.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Keep going on down. Okay, D, 2D.
2D, on page 103, at the end of paragraph, or item 2, the last sentence says, the cost of the city employees will be attributed to the funds budgeted to the SECDA by the city. But then in item 6, the third sentence says the annual contribution will be in addition to the funds expended by the city for the salaries and benefits of the city employees working for the SECDA. And I think the 106 should say the annual contribution will include the funds expended, because I think it's all one, but it sounds like it's one is contradicting the other.
Yeah, staff called me this afternoon with this and we were doing changes on it.
Okay.
We changed it to include it, and we also change the following sentence to read, the city will not earmark funds remaining after the payment of cost of city employees for specific purposes.
Okay, okay,
And I've done that in consultation with my clerk, this is the
good, good. Okay.
Okay.
With that change, I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Peterson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Schran. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
Sharon.
Aye.
O'Neill. Mills.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. Okay, aye.
Aye. I reads approve out-of-state travel for the following personnel and locations. Notes are on page 117. You take these one at a time or all four together?
Whatever you want.
Okay. Start with number one under item I. Mr. Chris Thomas and Corporal Dan Shoemaker to attend the national conference relating to our Oklahoma Highway Safety Office grant, which will be held in Nashville, Tennessee. The conference will be held on August 21st through the 23rd of this year. All costs for this trip will be reimbursed to the SPD by the Oklahoma Highway Safety Office grant. The grant that we're talking about, is that the one on page 267, I believe? $10,000 grant? Is that
No,
separate?
that's not a grant.
Okay. What grant are you referring to?
This is the Oklahoma Highway Safety Grant. It's a $55,000 grant that has to do with too much to lose, alcohol, and also other related charges that officers work overtime in doing enforcement on safety seatbelts and such.
And is that grant approved or just being applied for? Or?
Oh, no, that grant has been approved. We're on the grant, it's a federal grant that goes by the federal fiscal year, which starts October 1. And that's money that's been available for this particular type of training, or it could be used by this training. It was approved by the grant manager. We've also received notice that we're receiving another $55,000 grant beginning this October 1st, and I just got word the other day that we received another $55,000 grant beginning October 1st of 2009 for 2010.
Is any of this grant money you just mentioned, does it have to go all towards training, or could it be dispersed among other needs in the police department?
Now, this has been authorized for training. The training has to do, the conference has to do with underage drinking enforcement training for those individuals that manage that grant, which is Mr. Thomas. And Dan Shoemaker, 50% of his salary is paid by this grant. Other monies go to officers working overtime in order to go ahead and enforce those laws. We send them out on special activity nights to do that.
It will be reimbursed. That means we have to put the money out up front.
That's correct.
What's the amount? You don't give an amount for this particular trip.
This particular trip is going to run $2,164.
$21.64.
Correct.
Okay. I guess I'll just go down the line. If
Okay,
anybody
that's
has
good.
questions on this one,
Not right now.
I'll go to number 2 then.
Okay.
Officer Jason Crouch and Officer Ellen Nichols to attend the Ethics Train the Trainer course, which will be held at the Center for American and International Law in Plano, Texas, September 15th through 19th of this year. Estimated cost $2,000. Is that under the same grant or not?
No, that's not a grant. That's coming out of our training funds.
Okay, that's coming out of our training fund. Is this the same training fund where last month you took, what was it, $6,000 something for attorney's fees? Requested it?
That was last fiscal year. We're in the new fiscal year now.
I said last month, yeah. But that money came from the same training fund.
It came from one of the training accounts within the
Okay.
police department.
All right, any questions on number 2? I feel like I'm doing this all by myself.
You are.
Thanks for the help, guys.
I have no problem with training. I think it's exceptional that we're making professionals out of our officers and giving them an opportunity to be better prepared to
Oh, I'm
protect
not
us.
questioning the training, I'm questioning the disbursement of funds and where they're coming from and where they will be reimbursed. By the way, reimbursement takes how long? 6 months?
No, sir.
But you said federal.
Well, that's submitted to the grant, and I don't believe it's 6 months. I think it's about, Neva, what is the reimbursement on our, about 3 or 4 months?
Let's say once we expend the money and we turn in the reports, we have to turn around in at least 60 days within that. And all of our grants are reimbursement grants, all of them.
Okay, I have a question for you after I get down to number 4. But all right, number 3, Sergeant Rod Taylor and Sergeant Mason. I believe that's a typo.
It is a
Supposed to
typo.
be Wilson, right?
That's correct.
To attend the School of Police Supervision course, which will be held at the Center for American and International Law in Plano, Texas. This one's for 3 weeks, it's October 6th through the 31st. Estimated cost is $6,000.
That's correct.
The $6,000 is coming out of the SPD training fund.
That's correct.
All right.
Is that because of the length of the time?
Yes, we have to pay, of course, their per diem, we have to pay their hotel, and then we have to pay the tuition for the school.
Okay, this is like a 3-week class?
That's correct. The school at the Institute there is one of the premier law enforcement schools, not only in the region, but the country. And there's officers that attend there from around the world.
All right. 4th one, Detective / Corporal Julie Huskins to attend Professional Standards and Ethics course. Same place, Center for American and International Law, Plano, Texas, just about the same time.
Well, this is I noticed there was a typo. The actual date of that course, it's a 5-day course. It's from November 3rd to the 7th, 2000.
Okay, it's not October 1st through 26th.
No, and of course the cost for that is $1,300. That wouldn't
Okay.
even close to a month.
All right, that's number 4. On all 4 of these, your cost comes to ballpark 10, 11, almost $12,000. I have to ask the treasurer where this money is going to come from, which fund?
It will all come from the general fund, the police administration or the police patrol department budget,
Okay.
correct?
There's training accounts in each of the divisions that has been planned for and budgeted, and this is a master plan on these classes right here, except for the highway safety. That was something that came up not long ago and was recommended by the grant manager over the highway safety program here in the state of Oklahoma. So all this has been planned for as an overview plan of training our personnel to perform their jobs.
All right. The other question I have is sending these officers outside of Mr. Thomas. You're sending 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 officers, 4 officers out of town, 2 of them for as long as 3 weeks. Is that going to put a crimp in your manpower situation?
All that's analyzed before we go ahead and put in for these schools. For instance, the first one, Mr. Thomas, of course, isn't an officer. He's the head of the civilian employees for the department.
Right.
Corporal Dan Shoemaker, he's in the Special Assignments Division. So they're in 2 different divisions. On Officer Jason Crouch and Officer Alan Nichols, they're both in the same division, but we allow for that. In other words, they've been advised, they being the watch commanders, so that we could properly plan for this and to make sure that we have the proper scheduling on our shifts to cover it. The other 2 schools, Sergeant Rod Taylor and Sergeant Mason Wilson, they're in 2 different divisions too. So it doesn't impact just one division. Sergeant Rod Taylor, he's in the Special Assignments Division, and Sergeant Mason Wilson, he's in the Uniform Division. And then the last one is Detective Corporal Julie Huskins. She's in the Special Assignments Division in the investigative section, so that doesn't negatively impact our operation.
One other question. How were these individuals chosen? Did they volunteer? Did they request this? Is it on merit? Is it on seniority?
No, schools aren't based on seniority. It's based on job functions, whether it's, and then I'm talking in general terms. I could probably go down and explain each one of the decision-making process for picking them. What I'm trying to do in the Shawnee Police Department is, so to speak, spread the wealth so that we have not just several individuals that are trained in any specific areas or multiple areas. We want to get different officers involved and employees in different types of training. And so we have a lot of talent on the Shawnee Police Department, so we're getting it involved. For instance, on the ethics class, that's Ethics Train the Trainer. That's so we'll have our own instructors that will be teaching the ethics class here at the Shawnee Police Department. That'll be for new officers, and that'll also be for regular employees, not only just officers, but civilian employees. The School of Police Supervision goes along with my master plan on training our officers to be very well knowledgeable in the field of supervision. And there's, and if you like, I can go ahead and go down the list of the topic areas that they'll be learning about for that period of time.
No, that won't be necessary. I'm primarily interested in the cost and the loss of manpower for that length of time.
Well, that's all the things that have been considered and determined by me and my staff. That just like we have in the past, we made sure that we had the proper staffing levels in the various divisions that can handle those responsibilities here at home while we send them out of state for this very important and needed training.
Was this strictly an administrative decision or appointments, or did the police union have any say in this at all?
No, the police union doesn't have any duty as it relates to training of employees. That's my responsibility to train the officers and the civilian employees of the department.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there enough money in the budget to cover the high cost of gas and everything? You said train these officers and everything. And then this other question I'm asking, you're training these officers to do this and that, and you said we don't have enough officers here to cover our different areas. Why can't we have some of the training go to hiring new police officers so we could have our city better protected?
Well, we're doing all the above. We're doing all that. Your first question was about gas. That's a completely different account that deals with gas, and that's been budgeted. As we reviewed the budget process a few months ago with the commission, that was discussed about fuel. Of course, that's kind of an unknown factor, and that's affecting a lot of law enforcement agencies across the country because, of course, we have the responsibility to patrol our communities to make sure they're safe, so it's kind of a necessary evil to have the gas. But one of the things that some of the communities are doing in the United States is on traffic citations, they're charging what's called a surcharge on each traffic ticket. In Atlanta, Georgia, a suburb there is charging $15 per ticket for people that are cited on violations. And so there's a lot of different things that we're looking at from the administrative standpoint, chiefs and such, in ways with dealing with the economic problems of purchasing gas. As it relates to hiring more officers, we're currently in the process of doing that at the Shawnee Police Department. The last word I got is that we have 40 applicants that we're taking a look at. In fact, this Saturday, officers will be undergoing the physical agility test and the written exam. A week from this Saturday, they'll be going the first interview that they'll go under with officers, and in fact, we'll have a couple civilians that I've been, since I've been here, I've had civilians from within the city, business leaders and such, that have sat on those interview boards to review those individuals. And there's a whole process that they have to go through in order for them to come onto the department. And it's a very difficult process. And hopefully we'll find, right now we have 4 vacancies on the department. Maybe in the past you remember me saying that according to national average, we're down 10 of what we should have. But allocated positions, we have 4 vacancies right now. 3 through retirements and another officer going to another occupation, and then we have one that's been created by a $150,000 grant that you may have seen in the paper that the department received to fund a truancy officer position, a new program that we're doing at the Shawnee Police Department to help reduce truancy in our school system.
Well, I thank you for answering that, but in my ward, and Main Street is one of the main streets that's there in the ward, and it's been so much vandalism and everything at night, and the people, you know, it gets so costly until they can hardly stay in business. And that's what I was chosen for, to kind of look after my wards, you know, all over Shawnee. Don't misunderstand me. I'm about all over Shawnee, but mainly my ward, I'm really concerned about it.
Well, I understand that. Of course, we haven't had the funding to create new officer positions, and we're trying to bring people on board as quickly as possible. Through the hiring process till we actually have an officer out on their own takes about 6 months to do that so that we get them properly trained. We have to go through the hiring process. They have to go to the academy in most cases. After they get back from the academy, they go through a 16-week field training officer program. And once they go through all that and evaluate and we're sure that they're able to do their job properly, then we put them out on their own. So it takes quite a while for us to go through that. Some other measures that I'm trying to do, since we have limited funding through revenue to increase our staffing levels on the department, I've created a reserve officer program, which we have one on board now. We're getting ready to put 2 more on, should they go and finish the process themselves. We're also conducting interviews for several others that we receive grant funding to send them to the police academy. And so we're trying to move as quickly as we can. Another program that I started to help relieve officers of some of the more or less, it's important, but rather mundane functions is the Sentinel program, which we are taking applications for that right now. And the precursor to the Sentinel program is the Citizen Police Academy, which we've had 3 academies since I got here, and so they will be eligible to apply for the Sentinel program, and anybody else attending the Sentinel or the Citizens Police Academy in the future will be able to do that. They go out and they can help officers direct traffic on traffic accidents, deliver emergency messages, deliver agendas to the commissioners. There's a wide range of areas that they can do, a wide range of things they can do in the field and also at the department. So through volunteerism, through the reserve officer programs, the Sentinel program, and I'm doing what I can with what funds I have available for hiring. About everything you can do in law enforcement, I'm doing right now.
Well, you said with the funds that you have available, and you know, it's quite a bit of overtime that's being with the officers and overworked. And if you, as a human being, if your body don't get enough rest, you can't do your job correctly. And if you don't take some rest, that body gonna take rest itself. And with that money that's being spent for all that overtime, can some officers be hired from that?
Well, the overtime budget was increased, as we discussed, as we went through the budget process, and that was due to the shortages that we've had for a long time. Hiring 1 or 2 officers based on that increase would not be sufficient to do the things that we need to do. What that funding is helping us do is, for instance, the Shawnee Twin Lakes. When I got here, of course, we didn't have any water or that much water in the lakes, but all of a sudden we had water, and we needed to create a lake patrol unit, and that's what we did. And so when for instance, this past weekend, there was a lot of activity at the lake. People, rather than driving far away, they're using the lakes here at home. So that increases the individuals that are out there, so we have to be prepared for that. We had a lot of officers out there in our new pontoon boat, on our jet skis, patrolling and such out there. So we have the flexibility with this new lake patrol unit that is manned by officers that are doing it on an overtime basis. So there's a lot of things that are going on that maybe the general public don't necessarily know, and I'm trying to go out and explain all those things that we're trying to address. Everything that we can possibly do in the way of law enforcement, I'm attempting to do.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? I still have to reiterate, I believe funding of any kind, whether it comes out of the general fund, out of grants, you mentioned grants for hiring new officers that are available, I believe we ought to hold back on training until we can hire some more officers.
Well, if I may, sir, training is very important. We can't afford not to train. Getting these officers trained, and I think it's important for me to state, especially in our supervisory training, which we've lacked here at the Shawnee Police Department for many years, is on the supervision aspects, and these are the things that are covered. Change in the organization, legal aspects of discipline, motivation, basic statistics, street culture and supervision, community-based policing, legal liability of supervisors, stress and supervision, sexual harassment, workplace discrimination, creating a strong ethical environment, media relations, and police-community relations. These are all topic areas that are extremely important in the law enforcement field.
Excuse me for interrupting, but training, if you had a training course that could train your officers do the work of 2 men, that might work in this case. But I still think hiring new police officers is the best way to go. With that in mind, if no other commissioners have any comments, I'd like to ask the chair to accept my motion of accepting 1 and 2 under item I and rejecting 3 and 4.
Okay, you have a,
Unless you want one at a time, but they're all under I. We can do that, John, can't we? Sure. Okay.
so you want to do them one at a time, or you want to
No,
do? Okay.
my motion is to reject, accept 1 and 2 under item I and
Okay.
reject 3 and 4.
Okay, have a motion by Commissioner Schran,
No second.
second by Commissioner O'Neill.
And specifically, why do you want to reject 3 and 4?
Specifically because of the time length that the officers will be gone and the cost. And as I stated, I think the money would, the funding would be well served to hire new officers, not train existing officers more than they have to be trained.
But number 4 is a lesser amount. Number 3 is a larger amount.
Well, $1,300 is not chump change, and neither is $6,000. When you start adding all this up,
Okay, other comments?
At this point.
The training, though, is so essential. If you hire officers in, if you don't have the officers on the police department that are already trained, that can train them further, you just get a basic overview in the police academies. You come back, you get real training once you get on the streets. And that's if you don't have the supervision already trained there, you've wasted that other time.
It just makes some people a little bit better trainers, you know.
You have to have your supervision, your people on the force already trained. You can't bring in new people from the academy without having that background
That's
to
right.
continue their training.
Well, you got to be professional, so.
And I understand the concern because it's a large department with a large budget in salaries and training. We did approve a budget that had line items for training in it by departments within, like the police department. And I know these things still come to us, but I almost feel like it's micromanaging the department head who says that they need certain tools and certain training for their department, and then we pick and choose. And so because of that, I can't support the motion.
I agree. Okay, well, we'll just call roll then.
Sharon,
aye.
O'Neill,
Aye.
Mills,
Nay.
Collier,
Nay.
Peterson,
Nay.
motion fails.
Motion fails. All right, let's go to,
Can we have a motion to approve
oh, approve, okay, I'm sorry.
item I, 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Motion by Commissioner Peterson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Collier. Call roll, please.
Peterson,
Aye.
Collier,
Aye.
Sharon,
Nay.
O'Neill,
Nay.
Mills,
Aye.
motion carries.
Okay, that motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, John Krywicki? N, C. You were at the Transportation Committee meeting, right?
No, actually, it wasn't.
You weren't? Oh, you get the answer anyway. How's that?
The night of the traffic commission meeting was the same night as the Expo special commission meeting night.
I knew we weren't there for a reason.
Yeah. What's the question?
Well, the tribe has requested this sometime back about paying the electric, which we do on city street lights, and my understanding they even maybe bought these lights or some of these lights themselves and had been paying accordingly all the way down to the hospital, Memorial, or Unity South. I started at Mission Hill, Memorial, but so you have this information. You know when we'll have this information to make this decision?
Yeah, we have some of the information. Actually, staff that night recommended approval of all the lights within the street right of way, all the way south of the bridge to the city limits. But the reason why we said in the right of way because there's a couple of them that follow the sidewalk right there by Squirrel Creek Bridge. They get off of the right of way. But then the item was listed as south of the river to Hardesty, so the commission just decided to defer this until the next meeting so we can get an exact count of the number of lights and then change the item to from Hardesty Road to the city limits.
Okay.
So this will be on next month's traffic agenda.
Yes.
And we will have all the information necessary to make a decision.
And the actual item will be worded properly. Instead of just south of the river to Hardesty Road, it will be south of the river to the city limits, which goes on to the hospital out there.
Okay.
That's why they deferred it.
Okay. I just want an explanation on that because I know they were asking about it. So, all right. So I will. I guess I can make a motion. Or you can.
Make a motion to approve the Traffic Commission's recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Collier. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Sharan.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Mills.
Aye.
Motion
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, number 3, citizens' participation. We'll remind you we have a 3-minute limit per person, a 12-minute limit per topic, and the clerk will be keeping some time, probably, won't you? One of you guys? No participation. Okay, everybody's waiting. Okay, number 4, presentation to Shawnee Police Department Officer of the Quarter, Sergeant Rod Taylor. Come on, Rod.
Don't be shy.
I've never been to be shy yet.
No, I don't either. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to announce Sergeant Rod Taylor as the Shawnee Police Department Officer of the Quarter for the second quarter of 2008. Sergeant Taylor joined the Shawnee Police Department on September 9, 1990. He has served in numerous assignments over the years. Currently, he is assigned to the Special Assignments Division as the training coordinator for the department. Sergeant Taylor has been instrumental in overseeing the new SPD training program, which has increased in-service training for department personnel by over 500%. Additionally, he coordinates the many advanced training courses employees are now scheduled to attend. In December 2007, the commander of the Special Assignments Division, Lieutenant Russell Franz, was activated by the United States Air Force and was deployed overseas through June 2008. During that time frame, Sergeant Taylor was given the acting rank of lieutenant and placed in command of the Special Assignments Division. Not only was Lieutenant Taylor still responsible for carrying out his duties and responsibilities for the SPD's aggressive training program, but he was also responsible for overseeing other duty assignments that make up the Special Assignments Division. This includes the Criminal Investigation Section, Community Relations Officer, Public Information Officer, Warrants Officer, School Resource Officers, and the Housing Authority Officer. There is no doubt that Sergeant Rod Taylor has stepped up to the plate and performed his duties and responsibilities in an outstanding manner. Through Sergeant Taylor's leadership and devotion to duty, he has brought positive recognition to himself and the Shawnee Police Department. It is with great pleasure I present Sergeant Rod Taylor with the Shawnee Police Department Officer of the Quarter Award. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 5, City Manager's presentation to Employee of the Month, Fred Couch, Utility Division Meter Reader.
It's my privilege to present this to Fred Couch. City of Shawnee has a lot of hardworking people, and I think Fred's probably one of the hardest. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He's from Fresno, California. He moved to Shawnee in October of 1996. He's been married for 23 years and has 2 sons. Freddie is 22 and Kevin is 20. He has 2 grandsons, Colby 4 and Austin 2. And he's worked for the city for 8.5 years. His hobbies are dirt track racing and antique shopping with his wife.
Oh.
Yes.
I was kind of hoping we'd get some meter reading stories like being chased by dogs or, you know.
He can do it, yeah.
That's got to be a challenge. Okay, number 6. A public hearing and consider an ordinance rezoning property located at 712 East Highland from R1 residential to C3 automotive, commercial, and recreational for use as a parking lot. Applicant John Uyghur, OVO Shawnee Auto Mall, case P01-08, deferred from May 19, 2008. Public hearing is open. Staff report.
And I think the machine has gone off. Is this on?
Yeah.
It's not.
Did we get a new bulb?
It's toast.
We try again. It was on earlier, but we'll continue on and hopefully because sometimes it takes time to warm up. Is it?
Put a nickel in it.
I saw Steve here earlier. So Steve, are you still here? No. Steve Miller was here earlier. We didn't make him on. Oh, there he is. We'll go on. What considers this item 3. I'm sorry. Item 3 on the city commission. P01-08 is a request to rezone property at 712 East Highland to C3. The problem with this one has been all along is the size too small unless they meet the C3 ordinances. And as we roll along through this project, thank you, Steve, the applicant wished to do a PUD and did not get the PUD submitted in time for this meeting, but it was submitted last week, and the Planning Commission asked that this be continued till the August meeting, Planning Commission August meeting, which would be the City Commission meeting of August 18th, I believe. Yes, August 6th is the PC meeting, so August 18th will be the City Commission meeting. They have submitted it, and we're working with your engineer to get it done. It looks like that's going to work, but with that finally submitted, we'll move along on that project. So we're requesting that you defer this item to your August 18th City Commission meeting.
No problem.
Motion to defer till August 18th.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Collier. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Sharan.
Aye.
O'Neill. Mills.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, number 7. A public hearing and consider an ordinance for approval to rezone property located at 1801 West MacArthur from C1 Neighborhood Commercial to C1P Neighborhood Commercial with conditional use permit to allow for the sale of furniture and home furnishings for property. Applicant Kermit Milburn, case P19-08, deferred from June 16th of 2008.
Yes, P1908 was a deferred item. It was deferred to the request of the applicant, and we will make a staff report tonight to help you try to understand this. This actually is very difficult, actually in some ways to understand for most of us, even including myself, because non-conforming issues on lots is a little bit tricky when you're trying to deal with codes. First, I want to explain a few things, but as I talk about the non-conforming issues, staff has met with the applicant, has also met with Mr. Canavan. If I say anything, Mr. Canavan, that's not appropriate, let me know, because it is kind of a issue that's rather tricky to try to understand the state laws and our city codes. First, just for clarity, a conditional use permit has somewhat of a misnomer, the word permit. It's actually a rezoning application. It's no different than rezoning from, let's say, R1 to C1. It's changing a land use allowance from allowing these particular items to these particular land use items. A C1P allowing a conditional use permit is not a permit to construct or do something. It's merely adding one additional land use to those land uses that are allowed. So just by the city commission approving a CUP doesn't mean that tomorrow the permit's approved. The permit for actual building or occupying the structure or the lot is not allowed by the actual zoning. The zoning merely says that this is now an allowed use. Now you have to still meet all the codes and ordinances and any rules that we have on development to continue on and actually put the use on the property. I think there's sometimes a little misunderstanding what that word permit means. It only changes and allows an additional use. In this case, the applicant is asked to allow an additional use in the C1 zoning district, that use being furniture and home furnishing sales. That is not an allowed permitted use in C1, but can be acquired if the city commission approves a conditional use permit to allow that particular use in C1P, and that's what's being allowed tonight. The issue of the use, furniture and home furnishing sales, has never been the real issue that the staff has dealt with on this particular piece of property. The issue is really the non-conforming status of the site. As you see here, this is one lot, and there are two structures on this lot. Two structures being 8 feet apart. One is a primary structure being the residence, which is to the south, and a larger structure, which is just 8 feet north, that would be described as an accessory structure, a garage of some sort, or a structure that is like that. Prior to 1973, the city didn't have zoning codes. The codes were adopted in 73. Both of the structure was on site at that time, and also at that time there was what we would describe as a home occupation use in that larger structure. It was a car, a seat, reupholstery business. It wasn't like there was a big pharmacy sign out front or a commercial establishment, didn't meet parking codes, there weren't any commercial entrappings other than the use that was in the building. The use was there for many years as it went on through the years, and apparently in 2004, somewhere thereabouts, the owner of the property now, I think it's his daughter, decided to sell the property. The water meters were turned off for as much as a year at one time, so there was no occupation of either structure during some periods of time. In 2006, a new owner came on the scene and was remodeling the residential structure, and Mike, correct me if I say anything wrong, because I've gotten this from our building permit department, and I wasn't here in 2006, so I'm relying on that information. The owner at the time decided to renovate the residential structure, and the permit was not issued, so they came to the city, and there was a lot of negotiating on the issue, because since the residential use had been gone for some time, according to the non-conforming codes, that use should not be brought back. And so there was some negotiation at that time which allowed the non-conforming residential use to continue on that side, on the property, as legal non-conforming residential. A building permit was issued for 500 square foot renovation of the residential structure at that time. And it was just a residential permit, and the understanding that I have had from the past planning director and the city officers and inspectors is that this was a non-conforming residential use. Since that time and up to now, what has apparently transpired is the owner wanted to now reestablish commercial into that larger structure. And so the issue now becomes the site, the property. It's one piece of property. It's not several pieces of property. So when we look at this, we deal with it as one piece of property. The site is now non-conforming residential. The way that the staff and I don't want to speak to Mr. Canavan, but in our discussions all together, is that we understand non-conforming to be that if you want to change the use on the property to a conforming use. For instance, you're going from residential to commercial. You need to remove the non-conforming use on the property.
Has he done so?
No, and see there's where our conflict occurs. It's not as much as the staff is so against uses and using this, but we have to go by what our codes say. And we're trying to follow those codes. We have tried to come up with some solutions. And here's some information, which you probably in your staff reports, about non-conforming lots. Anything that, it's like sidewalk activity. When a subdivision, land use change, zoning clearance permit, all these things kind of kick in this idea that, well, you now need to bring it into compliance. It's the way that we understand the state laws and the city laws to talk about non-conforming and non-complying land uses.
If I may.
Sure.
On page 145, your staff recommendation is either 1 or 2.
Right.
If he conforms, yes. If he doesn't conform, you want us to deny it.
Well, yes, but we have a few more.
What about a deferment wouldn't do any good, would it?
No, it wouldn't. But we have a few more ideas that we'd like to talk about. We have met and we've tried to iron out this issue and try to come to some agreement. First, we thought about a PUD, but a PUD has a minimum square footage of 1 acre, and the site's not 1 acre, so we can't do a PUD. We have discussed doing a lot split and splitting the lot to allow the larger structure on the north side to be separated off into 2 different lots, and we've had some problems with that. Also, one being that we'd be creating a non-compliant lot on the south by allowing the zoning C1 to remain on that. And so we thought, well, let's rezone it to R1. That would at least remove the non-compliance issue so that the city does not create a non-compliant piece of property. And in addition to that, the buildings are 8 feet apart from what we can best understand, and neither building meets the setback requirements. They would have to go to a board adjustment in addition to the lot split, in addition to the short form plat, to get a variance on the setbacks as well. So we've kind of gone through those 2 ideas of how to come to a solution on this issue. And we haven't really got much down the roadway. But yes, the two items that the staff had proposed was, to remove the residential structure, the residential use, just the use, and then allow the site to change to a full commercial establishment. Staff is concerned that there's a lot of property in town that if you said that, sure, there's a house on it, zone C1, zone C3, go ahead and put a commercial structure on the rest of your property because it's commercial. And leaving the house on there would now create all kinds of situations in town that we don't want to occur. Let me go to the zoning map. Okay. For example, the site directly west of this property is also zone C1 and has a house on it. The house is legal, non-conforming residential. To just allow the use, a commercial use to take place in the building on the site in question would be, yes, okay, so the building next door to you would do the same thing. Build a building there on MacArthur and put commercial in it and leave your house on the back. So the staff is somewhat kind of at the end of our suggestions on how to rectify the issue. The other possibility is again, to try again with the current city manager, who is also the acting community development director, and sit down and talk about some of the issues, again, with Mr. Kennedy and Mike Cox, the building inspector. But we haven't come up with a solution because every solution we come up with violates other codes that we also have to deal with. So we're kind of in a catch-22, and we can't seem to really come up with a solution on this project.
And a lot of this is based on the fact that the residential is non-conforming.
It's legal non-conforming use.
Okay, based on,
reestablished
why is
in
it legal
2006.
non-conforming? Because of its location on the property?
Because it's a residential use is not allowed in C1. And the residential use was there prior to 73 when the zoning was adopted.
That's right.
And it was there up to a certain point. It was gone, and I don't know how all the negotiations things transpired in 2006, but it was agreed between the staff and the owner that they would allow the residential use to come back to the vacant structure and the property to continue as a legal non-conforming
residential use, which would then allow the larger structure, which is 8 feet to the north of the house, to be a storage unit, to be a garage, to be a home occupation, as long as that home occupation use fell within the guidelines of our code's home occupation use. The permits that have been submitted to date are one permit requesting review of driveways, sidewalks, and pavement for parking lot on the site. That's the only permit we actually have in hand to review.
Because that structure is zone C1. So,
The whole property is zone C1. So we don't look at it as structure by structure. It's
okay, so the whole property is already zone C1, so that activity can happen.
Yeah, right. And it's our understanding as staff and Mr. Hammond and looking at all the laws that in order for the new commercial use, complying use, to come to the property has to now conform, and that means the non-conforming use needs to go away. That is our understanding of the state's non-conforming laws and our own, which mirror the state's. That's our interpretation of those laws.
Okay, I'll hold my other comments.
It's hard to kind of get around.
Yes. I think that's,
The Planning Commission just recommended C1P, and as I just stated a few minutes ago, the C1P is not a permit to do anything. It just adds the furniture, home, household sales to the long list of permitted uses. The applicant and the property still has to comply with all our other building codes and setbacks and sidewalks, et cetera, et cetera. There's no variances or any other thing allowed by the conditional use permit.
Okay. Any other questions to staff? Anyone wish to speak against this rezoning? I know the applicant's here that wants to speak for, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. This property, in fact, I've got a copy for you. The site plan. Test this out. Everything in orange and what I've showed is C1 property, zone C1. And then in the blue, that is the house that's been there since 1960. Jerry Mash had a upholstery shop, and he sold seats and he sold materials, and I've bought car parts from him there in the past. He had a business there. In the early 60s, he built this house and he built this commercial building, and he lived in the back, which is blue, and he sold his wares out of the building, which is in the orange there. And so as of 1960, and then in 1973, Shawnee came up with zoning, and this property was zoned C1. But that's what non-conforming, this is the perfect explanation of non-conforming use. The property was used as a residence and a commercial property. When the zoning came in, it was zone C1, but C1 doesn't allow residences, but since it was legal at the time, it's allowed as a non-conforming use. And so the house remained as a non-conforming use. And we wouldn't be here today if Jerry Mask still owned this property, but Mr. Mask went into the nursing home, unfortunately, and there was a period of time, that's the first I knew was a couple days ago, that apparently he did not use it. The water bill wasn't paid for a 6-month period or something, but that was not complained of the staff earlier. So, and we have to go with the city's code. I think it's real important we look at the city code, and it says very clearly in 1201.1 the intent. It is the intent of this code to permit these non-conformities to continue. And you can understand that. It's ridiculous to tell a man to tear down his house because they zoned his house C1. It was allowed to continue. And it says it's the intent to allow it to continue. And it says if a lawful structure exists, such as a house, on the effective date of adopting the code, then the lawful use may continue as a non-conforming use. And that's simply what we have here. The house continues as a non-conforming use. Now, before I purchased the property, Mr. Mask's daughter was handling it, and I met with the city inspector to make sure there would be no problems continuing this. And That's where I learned about non-conforming use. I'd always heard it was grandfathered in, but it was explained to me in detail that the residence could stay, the commercial building could stay. And so spent $20,000 fixing up the house and some $50,000 fixing up the commercial building. I hope most of you have driven by there and seen the improvement that's been made to that. That's taken a bad-looking building and made it look very nice. And I believe the property, but for these problems, it's a simple answer. It's a C1 property, but the house is non-conforming. And here's a copy of the code that talks about household furnishing and appliance stores. You see that under C1, not C1P, not R, but household furnishings. And that's the problem. I've rented this property now to a tenant that has put in an antique store, and that basically it's home furnishings, and not the appliances, but just the home furnishings, which is in C1. And that tenant is occupying the house as their home, and they're occupying the commercial building as a commercial building. And they went through all the zoning process, the permit process, and then when they asked for the business permit, that's when this came up. And they were told first there had to be a lot split. We pursued that, and then they were told it needed to be C1P. We went through that rigmarole. Then the reason it was continued from the last hearing in June, they said, no, it has to be a PUD, a PUD, Plan Unit Development. That was prepared at additional expense. And then we were told that no, a PUD no longer works. We go back to C1P. I don't think we even need to do C1P because this is a C1 property. Nothing would be any different if Jerry Mash lived there. It continues. But the tenant has threatened suit against me because they cannot use the property for the reason they are leasing it. So I'm trying to comply with the city. I've been willing to do everything required for C1P, to pay the parking lot, to this 40-foot structure, to worry about the drainage, and we've done all that. We've had a site plan done, and then we've done topographicals, and it's just the expenses go on and on, but we've tried to comply with the requirements of the city. And in 2006, the city's argument was, this is commercial property, you can't use it as a residence. And then luckily Jason Miles, who was the inspector, found the code and showed it to me, which says non-conforming use, the house can stay. So the city agreed, yeah, it's commercial, but you can keep using the residential. And now today it's flipped completely. Now they're arguing it's residential and it's quit being used as commercial. And that's the whole reason we have zoning, C1 zoning. If it's not used for commercial property for so many months, then the zoning just goes away. That's not the intent of the zoning code. If your house was vacant for 6 months, does the residential use go away? That's ridiculous. This is very legalistic, the arguments that are being made, and it's really a simple problem. It's just let the house and the building continue to be used the way they've been used since 1960. If there's any problem with containing the property, we've offered to do the lot split where the residential part could be continuing the non-conforming and the commercial side continue as C1 zoning. But simply asking that the property be allowed to continue to be used as it's always been used, and that the tenant be allowed to run his antique store. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may supplement what the client is speaking about, my name is Ben Kerr. I've been trying to help Mr. Miller navigate these troubled waters. And at the outset, I want to express my appreciation and that of Mr. Miller with respect to Mr. Canavan's efforts to try to find a middle ground and to resolve these issues. But the reason for the request for the C1P is because of a difference in interpretation between the staff and the applicant with respect to household furnishings and appliances use, which is permitted under C1, versus furniture, which is a C1P. So we're trying to comply with the way the city seems to be interpreting things. The whole objective here is to do what is needed for us to be able to get the city to issue us a temporary certificate of occupancy We know there are additional steps that will need to be taken, but we want to get the applicant's tenant in there as quickly as possible. We know there are some issues that we have to address with the Board of Adjustment, but nobody's trying to play fast and loose. In fact, I won't say where it came from, but comment was made if we'd never said anything, we might have been able to get away with it. Nobody would have ever said anything. But we actually tried to go through the process as we would expect to do so as an applicant. But to me, it's a little bit simpler. I think the Planning Commission understood it fairly simply. They voted on it unanimously for C1P. But the problem I have now is I'm hearing staff saying that, okay, you get your C1P, but we're still not going to give you a temporary certificate of occupancy. And that's the whole reason we've gone through this exercise, why we've hired a licensed engineer to provide a detention plan and an appropriate parking plan that would comply with city requirements, why we've suggested the lot split. We've gone to the trouble of getting the legal descriptions put together for that so that we could split these properties and do a non-conforming use on the south side of the residential. The other thing I wanted to say is staff report says that the property, that the primary use is the residential. And I disagree. The bigger property, the long-standing use is that property on the front, the north end, along MacArthur. That's what this focus is about. The tenant is the one that's going to be living. They don't want a fence in between the two properties. They just want to be able to use the two properties and be self-contained there. And that's all we're trying to do, and we're constantly being frustrated here. We've tried all kinds of permutations and combinations to get everybody happy. And unfortunately, city staff keeps finding things, and they may be right in their interpretation, but it is impeding something that to us is fairly logical and obvious what needs to be done. So we're asking that you would ratify the actions of the Planning Commission and allow us to get our certificate of temporary occupancy.
It's refreshing to have someone asking permission instead of forgiveness like we've had in the past. Thank you.
And that's true. One thing I would like, though, is ask Mike to come and give the definition of temporary occupancy, just so everyone understands what that means. Mike, noise coming up. Other thing is, we did discuss with the applicant the opportunity, the possibility of submitting a lot split. It's been over a month, but we have not received one review, and that's kind of what we kept waiting for, something submitted so we could discuss whether that was an issue to go forward with. But we have discussed it. Tell the Commission, please, what is a temporary occupancy permit and when can you get it?
No, we generally don't issue temporary occupancies. Unless there's some specific little items that are still left to be done, that we're waiting on order perhaps, something that the weather may have caused. In other words, we did give a temporary occupancy to Family Video because there's sidewalks, but it was raining that week. And they had invested, hundreds of $1,000s in this building. They wanted to get the thing stopped, so we did issue a temporary occupancy on it before they put the sidewalks in. But if you've driven by there, we've got the sidewalks in. There's very, very nice sidewalks. We also issue temporary occupancies when there's items that's on order. Another example of that is the YMCA has a fence that they're waiting that crosses the pool. We've issued a temporary occupancy to the YMCA to use everything but the pool at this particular time. So, issuing a temporary occupancy at this location before the site's actually developed or before the issue is resolved as whether or not you need some type of a variance or some type of an approval to continue the non-conforming use of the residential side of this property is just something that we don't have the ability to give. We need a decision on whether or not that's going to be allowed as far as allowing the continuation of the non-conforming use of the property. A couple of statements I would like to make on this is that the applicant for the business license wrote on the application furniture store. And that's why we went for the C1P. They didn't want home appliances or home fixtures, they wanted a furniture store. And our code clearly states that a furniture store in C1 zoning is for, that you need a conditional use permit for that. Had they said that they wanted the home fixtures or appliances, we wouldn't have went for the C1P. But that's why we went for the C1P. We've tried every way we can to figure out how we can make this thing happen. I mean, we've looked at trying to split the lot. We've looked at because, we want to be business friendly and let these people, open up a commercial business there. It's just that every time we try something, we come up to that same obstacle that we've got a non-conforming use of this piece of property that in order to issue the permit has to go away. And that's what we're up against is simply trying to make our zoning code work in this situation.
And Mike, just so I understand too, the only permit that has been applied for and given over the last, since 2006, is the one residential permit for 500 square foot renovation of the house. That is it. And then we recently had a permit application for the driveway, parking lot, and the sidewalks. I mean, there's no parking lot or parking spaces at this location. So, temporary occupancy, there's no place to park. But there's no other permits here. There was no commercial permit issued for renovating the other building for commercial.
Right. The only permit that was issued was for residential use of this property. Residential use. There's never been a permit for a commercial remodel of any building on this location. There has been a business application submitted, which would be a permit to get a certificate of occupancy for a business for commercial property. When we received that, we went out and made an inspection of the property and gave them a written list of what would have to happen in order to open the business there. And it was it was a reasonable list. Part of the list, though, was we had to deal with that non-conforming situation of the use on the property. And that's something we've just never been able to get past. We've gotten the plans for the parking lot and for the drainage, and there are some issues making those work. I'm sure we can probably work most of those issues out. A lot of them are spacing. Their plan needs to be adjusted a little bit so that we get the separation requirements of the drive entrances from the intersections of the street. There perhaps may be some alignments as far as whether or not there needs to be an additional right-of-way given or not. And the reason being is because the plan that was submitted didn't show the right-of-way. It showed an 80-foot right-of-way, and I think in that area there we're probably looking at.
They show the right-of-way for the entire right-of-way. We need to go right-of-way from the center lines to this property line. That's what
it just was unclear as far as exactly what the right-of-way was. Maybe a non-issue. It's just something that needs to be cleared up on that plan. So it showed sidewalks being built on a local street, which aren't required. But if you're going to build them, then you need to build them the right width. They need to be the right sidewalks. But they don't have to build them on that local street. However, it does show an entrance that goes out on a local street, and our zoning code doesn't allow commercial entrances to go on local streets. So, it just seems like every time we find where we can go one way, we have to go another way.
I have a question, Mike.
They've asked that they combine the parking for the residential and for the commercial all in one parking lot, which our code does allow that. And if you were going to be able to combine that, you may be able to say that that entrance could be used for the residential side of it. But
again, if you split the lot,
then it's
and
commercial.
left the house on the south side zone C1, you have said that lot can have commercial access to the local street. So here we are again with the lot split having another problem.
The lot's so tight that you would have to put the landscaping, which is required, over on the residential side of the property because everything else has to be used for parking. It's just it's just one of those situations where every time we think that we can figure out a solution and to get this thing to go on, we are stumbled by another problem on it. And it's been a difficult. And, you know, nobody in here will tell you that, I mean, you know, Colonel Milburn's a really nice guy. He really is, and we would really like to work with him. You know what I'm saying? He's been in Shawnee forever. We would really like to find a solution to this problem.
But we don't have the authority to ignore the code, so there we're stuck.
But we do. That brings up my question.
Yeah.
What can be done to make this all go away? If we approve the applicant's request, can you work out the details, so to speak, with him?
Well, I guess we still go back to,
The only solution, and John might need to step in here to help us, the only solution we've really come up with that's viable at all is the lot split. Except the lot split has to deal with the house needs to change to residential zoning because the fact there's a house on it, plus now we have access to a local street. So we don't want to create a lot that is commercial, then has access to the local street kind of, so we're stuck with this issue, plus the two buildings don't have the proper setback from that lot that would be created.
And that's because we're trying to make our zoning code fit a situation that was not created with this in mind at all. This was built for a different purpose at a different time. And when we had when zoning codes came into being, this area was grandfathered or allowed to continue with commercial status, allowing for residential living on it. I don't understand why we can't continue to let that happen.
Did they tell us a year or so ago that there is no grandfathering clause in the zoning like there used to be? Isn't that correct?
Well, that might be some specific issue, but on this case, the residential was grandfathered in. It's called legal nonconforming.
Yes.
The problem that really happened was in 2006 when the structures were empty for such a period of time. State statutes and our codes all say if the use has gone for 6 months, you cannot bring the nonconforming use back. So in effect, the residential use should not have been brought back.
If they change ownerships, right?
Period. It doesn't matter who owns it.
If the same owner
It doesn't
owns
matter.
it? Well, I had my house empty for 2 years, we can remodel it.
But was it zone commercial?
Oh.
Okay, the difference is that this is zone commercial.
Okay.
And what happened in 2006, and I wasn't here, was apparently the agreement was that.
Well, you're not talking about the residence being empty, you're talking about the.
Everything was gone. I mean, the property was vacant. The water meter was turned off. So there was no occupation in either buildings for a period of time.
And the only way to clarify this is to level the entire thing and start all over with C1, and that's not acceptable.
No, we don't want to go there either.
That's not.
That's
I mean,
that's not an acceptable solution either.
But the lot split doesn't make any sense either because that's also non-conforming because of the distances from other structures and from the drive. None of that work. That does not work either.
Right, that's right. We were thinking maybe at this point to go ahead and go with the C1P, but try to get us together again between the legal and the community development director and the permit people and try to figure out a solution that's going to work.
Yeah, this was.
We just can't seem to come up with one.
And you're saying that the structure was empty for a certain amount of time based on
the water meter being turned off.
And the only reason the structure was empty because it took more than 6 months to get the city to. First, we had to build a firewall. Then another inspector said, "Gee, why'd you build a firewall? You should have done that." And just on and on. So it took 6 months to go through the city's requirements.
This first time was prior to 2006. It was like between 2004 and 2005. And it was in.
I just want to say that the permit request in 2006 was done in March. They requested to remodel 514 square foot of the building in March. The permit was granted to do that 514 square foot of remodel to that building. It was to change 50 studs inside the building that had been rotten, and to change the bottom plate on the building that had been messed up, to install a couple of doors. I mean, it was some upkeep on the building that the permit was given to. It was presented to us as a residential permit, and we have a letter from the applicant stating that he wanted to continue the use of that property as residential. The planner at that time approved that, and we sat down and explained the conditions of the use of the property as to continue to non-conforming on residential, and that commercial applications would only be allowed as in any other typical residential use, such as a home occupation, or if you rented it to, say, for instance, a contractor that went to the customer, just like a resident. What they did was they allowed the non-conforming use as a residential property. Not to come back and split it and say, okay, now this is a commercial building that you can open up a storefront.
But we allowed the work to be done on the residence. We recognize that non-conforming residential use on that property.
The residential use.
And to say that no other commercial use could be, I mean, it had to be a home occupation. The whole thing is Zone C1.
Right, and
so,
he wanted to keep that zoning because he felt like there was value in that zoning. We talked to him at that time about we need to rezone the property to R1. That was unacceptable because the value of the property was C1. So, in order to keep the man's investment where he said it needed to be, the zoning was kept there as C1, and the residential use was allowed to continue. The permit was issued on residential use, and the applicant gave a letter stating that he wanted to continue as residential use. Okay?
The attorney has another comment. Yeah.
I'll try to be as brief as I can,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and fellow commissioners, and thank you for taking the time to hear this. The applicant has been and continues to be frustrated as we try to work within the system, but the system keeps getting in the way, at least the way it's being interpreted. Applicant respectfully disagrees with city staff's characterization of some of the history, but today's purpose is not to debate that. Today's purpose is to find solutions. From our perspective, from the applicant's perspective, we get the C1P for the front, well, for the whole property. We get a non-conforming use as to the residential side. We've shown them how we're going to split this lot. We haven't formally had the opportunity yet to actually make the application for the lot split. But the whole idea is the temporary CO gives us that 2 months' time to fix these issues with the city, to go to Board of Adjustments, to take care of these minor variances that we need, and to get the lot split done. Meanwhile, the tenant can get in there and the city starts getting sales tax revenues. So that's what we're trying to get to. And the other thing is on the current permit, which is the precursor to the temporary occupancy permit, according to my understanding of the code, it's strictly with respect to the curb cuts and the parking area. And we presented a plan which should work. We're not trying, we don't have to remodel the buildings. It's all ready to go. So we're just looking for an interim solution until we have time to take care of the rest of these issues.
Good. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Well, we'll close the public hearing. And is anyone brave enough to interpret a motion?
Sure.
Yeah.
Linda, go ahead.
Okay, I will attempt one. I would make a motion to approve. Well, let me back up. Let me ask a question. Do we truly need a C1P at all, or can we go with C1?
If they do not want to furniture sales,
Household
C1's
furnishings and
fine. But
appliance
see, we have
store.
two uses that have been under question. One is household furnishings and appliance, and one is furniture, household furnishings and appliance, which in interpretation implies that furniture is in one but not in the other. So household furnishings does not include furniture.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
According to the codes that Shawnee has. That's,
What if they decide to sell
we have to go by
widgets?
the codes that we have and the terms that we have.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the applicant's request for a C1P zoning and to continue the southern structure as a legal non-conforming residence because work has been done, has been recognized by the city as a residential structure on that property for the last 2 years. It has been continuing. And because of that, I don't feel like it's had the emptiness to say that that is no longer a recognized use or a recognized change. So I say if that southern structure can be recognized as it was in 1973 as a legal non-conforming residence, the balance of the entire property is C1P. That's all we need to do at this point, and work can continue from my understanding.
But they have a permit on file that is still in review process for the parking lot and the driveways, the sidewalks, and the drainage, but it's still in review process.
But as long as that's a C1P and they can continue with those issues based on commercial activities, then they should be able to continue on through the process.
If this motion should come to pass, will they get their CO?
Not under the definition that Mike just gave you.
Well, they gotta have the CO or all this doesn't do them any good, right?
Well, this does doing good because they continue on getting their driveway put in, their parking lot put in, their sidewalks put in, and online. There was, as Mike said, a small list of issues, business-oriented ADA issues, interior, on his list that he gave.
Then they have to come back to get a CO?
At some point, and when it meets the issue that Mike was talking about of some part of it being accomplished, and what part's left, I leave that to Mike and his interpretation of what contemporary occupancy is. But without a parking lot.
We're leaving some loose ends.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, then what do we need to close up? If the residential structure, if the southern structure is a legal non-conforming residence, can that be occupied?
Yes, I think because they've got parking for that.
That's right. And that's been repaired and someone can live in that. So what you're saying is that the balance of the work that needs to be done for the C1 use has not been completed yet, so they can't move household furnitures and appliance store fixtures in there yet?
If I'm correct interpreting that right, Mike, you still here? Is that correct? Where'd he go?
Are we talking about two separate COs, one for residents and one for
The question was, is this two separate COs? One for the residents and one for the business?
Now, say that again.
Is this one CO or two COs? There's the question. Residents and the business.
It's one piece of property. The residential portion of the property is occupied and has a certificate of occupancy. What they're asking for is a certificate of occupancy for the front building to be used as commercial properties.
We need one CO then.
Well, the residence is already being used.
Okay.
It's already there.
Right.
And so I guess the point being is to give a certificate of occupancy for a commercial building that doesn't have parking in place. There's where I guess the question is that minimal enough to go ahead and get a CO over?
Well, the issue before us is to get the zoning correct
That's
so
correct.
that work can continue. I mean, that's
maybe
part of everything that's been held up here is it didn't have.
Possibly Mike and the Community Development Director and John Cannon could meet tomorrow and discuss the CO issue and see if they could find common ground to agree on.
Does your motion still stand?
Is that possible?
Yeah, we're working, but the thing is, we need that temporary CO during this process where we're trying to work through things. That's what we want more than anything. And now we've got to say, assume we get the zoning. And we want to have that 2-month period that your code allows so that our tenant can get in there and we'll work through the rest of it.
Well, code enforcement said there is no such thing as a temporary CO, right?
I didn't bring it up.
We give temporary occupancies, and we are allowed by ordinance.
Okay. Okay.
You know, under conditions that are minimal conditions.
And again, maybe the Community Development Director i.e. the city manager, and John and Mike could sit down and see if they could come to an agreement on what that means. According, and not violate the codes and intent of the code.
Because that is not the intent of this body to govern at that level.
Well, we don't want it to come back in its present form.
That's right.
Well, the C1P won't come back if you approve
So
that.
this is as far as we
tonight. This
can
is as
go.
far as the C1P goes.
You'll have to work
And
out.
I would encourage everyone else to work
issues.
out,
Right.
right,
Okay.
what can be done so we can continue on.
The staff doesn't feel like they have the authority to give that CO based on.
Okay, well, give us a minute and we'll give it.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Peterson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schran.
Does the city clerk know, did you write the motion down? Did you read it back? No? I forgot it already.
Motion to approve the
I can help you with
C1P
it.
zoning and continue recognizing the southern structure as a legal non-conforming residence.
Is that all right, John? Okay. John said go.
So three title. Their title.
The ordinance concerning zone classification of the following square property located in the corporate limits of the city of Shawnee, Oklahoma, to be read. Lot 1, Block 2, Golden Acres Edition, City of Shawnee, Potawatomi County, Oklahoma, according to the report of site thereof. Zoning said property from C1 neighborhood commercial to C1P neighborhood commercial with conditional use permit amending official zoning map to the Shawnee County.
Call roll, please.
Peterson,
Aye.
Sharon,
Aye.
O'Neill, Mills,
Aye.
Collier,
Aye.
motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Surely it's going to get easier, right? Warming up. It's warming up. Number 8, a public hearing and consider an ordinance for approval to rezone property located at 304 East MacArthur from R3 multifamily to C3 commercial and recreation. Applicant Eric and Marie Hopkins, case 2208, referred back from June 16, 2008. Public hearing open. Staff report.
As you recall, P2208 is an application to rezone a piece of property from R3 to C3. It is just west of the fire station, across from medical, and right next to apartments, as you see in the aerial. The issues that the staff brought up are first zoning pattern in the area. You have a lot of R1 in the area, residential next to it. The fire station and C2 zoning. The C3 seemed inappropriate at that location. The future land use map shows this area in the blue as public, and the uses that are proposed for the public are things such as government facilities, educational institutions, medical facilities, semi-public uses such as churches and meeting halls. The church is what used to be on the site. Other uses suggest low-intensity office and professional uses are appropriate in this area. C3, as you know, is one of the higher commercial uses in our zoning districts, and staff and I believe the Planning Commission felt that the C3 is just inappropriate use next to residential. We did have at least 2 protesters at the Planning Commission two weeks ago. But to make a long story short, we referred it back to the Planning Commission in case the applicant would prefer to do a PD. And after meeting with the applicant, and I guess they went and discussed it and had a lot of information, they called last Wednesday and asked that it proceed back on to the Planning Commission and to the City Commission as C2, which was the recommendation by the Planning Commission at that time. So at this point, we are back to recommending that this area be Zone C2, which is in compliance with our comprehensive plan and in conformance with zoning patterns and land use patterns in the area.
So they want C3, but you're recommending C2.
Yes, and they also, they called and said that they want it to continue as C2. They would like it to go on as a C2.
Yes, C2, not C3.
Correct.
Okay.
They would agree with that.
Okay.
And that's what the Planning Commission recommended.
Okay. All right. Questions? Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? Close the public hearing. Consider a motion.
Make a motion to rezone this property C2 per this request of the applicant and the Planning Commission's approval.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Peterson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Collier. Read the title, please.
Ordinance concerning zone classification of following described property located in the corporate limits of the city of Shawnee, Potawatomi County, Oklahoma. To wit, the south 205 feet of the west half of lot 10 and the west half of lot 9. East 15 feet of the west 180 feet and the south 200 feet of lot 9. Of the amended plat of lots 8 through 15 of Kelly's Edition, city of Shawnee, Potawatomi County, Oklahoma. And the east 25 feet of vacated Philadelphia Street lying immediately west of and adjacent to the above described lands. Zoning said property from R3 multifamily to C2 suburban office and amending the official zoning map, city of Shawnee, Florida.
Call roll, please.
Excuse me, could I have the motion read to me or not?
Okay.
Is it for or against?
For, to make it C2.
For C2.
Okay, that's all I got to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Mills.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, 9, a public hearing and consider an ordinance for approval of a conditional use permit to allow for the sale of beer and alcohol for on-premise consumption in C4 Central Business District for property located at 118 East Main. Applicant Kevin Bentley, case P23-08. Public hearing is open. Staff report.
Yes, item 9, which is P2308, is located in the downtown Shawnee area at 118 East Main. You see on the aerial, it is on Main Street between Bell and Union Street. The zoning in the area is all C4, as is the majority of all downtown. There are several C4Ps in the area, the closest one being across the street and just to the west, across the street south and to the west, which is known as the Knuckles Pub and Tavern. So the front of the building is currently unoccupied. Several planning documents in the last few years have information about this site. As you can see, the little red star is the project location of this application. The 2000 Downtown Action Plan was approved here, and this area was identified as arts and entertainment section for the downtown area. And I had a little square that was there on the left-hand side showing some land uses. Didn't show up on the screen, but I think it showed up on your printer, your printed areas, and some of those uses have been restaurants, pub and taverns, and other type of things that are family-oriented uses is on the handout that I gave you. That,
No.
I think on page 15, for some reason it didn't come up on my screen, but on page 15 on the left side are some land uses that are proposed and typically found in the arts and entertainment area, the downtown Shawnee area. So that plan was done in 2000, which some of the issues had to do with bringing back activities to downtown, restaurants, nightlife, things that are family-oriented, things that are not. But that is one of the plans. The 2005 comprehensive plan also identified this area as what we would call residential, public, and commercial. It's actually a higher commercial zoning district than C3. C4 is one step above the C3 uses, so it has a variety of high-intensity commercial uses. The land use category known as the public area, or the commercial, public, and commercial, and residential is land use category that represents a substantial blend of uses found only in the central core community. The category is recognized that a myriad of uses are both appropriate and necessary for the success of downtown. Also in that 2000 comprehensive plan, there was a Shawnee Character District plan. The area, as you see on the map and in red on the screen, is what's called the Downtown District. The Downtown District was proposed to have a wide mix of land uses designed to reflect the dynamic nature of a strong downtown, to continue commitment to government facilities and substantial commercial, office, retail, and service activities that include specialty retail and entertainment. Sufficient evening activities should be available to support downtown as an evening destination. Residential opportunities also would include upper-story apartments and flats above commercial activities. This is, and I will just make a side note right here, one of the issues in our comp plan was recommending residential downtown. And in order for that to actually become fulfilled, we actually need to review our CP ordinance, which doesn't currently allow residential, other than the high multifamily type of things, but it doesn't allow the granny flats up in those stores. We really need to consider reviewing that C4 use to allow those. So the proposed use is a C4P. On our notice and in our a lot of the information we put out, we use the term barb. And again, because we don't go by what's in the dictionary, we go by what our code says. A bar is the term in our codes for this type of use. And I know across the street, when Knuckles got their application for a C1P, they used the term pub and tavern. There's no pub and tavern in our land use ordinances, and so, we use the proper term of bar. A bar is a broad term that implies a lot of things. In this case, the applicant is proposing that that it be 21 and over. This is not for children. This is the type of use you would find if you went to Knuckles at 9 o'clock and after. After 9 o'clock, it's 21 only. Before 9 o'clock, it's different than that. This property owner proposes that to use only the first floor of downstairs, 3,600 square feet for the C4P use. If they decided to go up and use additional property on the second or third floor, as Knuckles has done, they have to come back to this body and get additional approval for any additional expansion out of that 3,600 square feet. Our hours of operation are from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. on Wednesdays through Saturdays. The applicant has expressed that they expect their main draw to be at about 8 o'clock in the evening. They will have live entertainment, inside only, no outside activities, no speakers in front or back. An establishment will be serving some food items, as was reported by them. Some of the issues to consider for the City Commission are the parking, noise, and protest letters, and we discussed those at length in the Planning Commission meeting about appropriate parking and what's available. Of course, this activity doesn't start till 4, and I know you'll have a lot of people who have some issues they'd like to bring up with you in terms of protest letters. As of Friday afternoon, the protest letters, in terms of the 300-foot legal area, was 35%. And I think that you may have that copy of that map in your. So the staff is not aware from the police department of any issues the police have had to deal with in this downtown area. The 2000 plan and the 2005 plan both recommended this is an appropriate use, and the staff also has recommended this to be approval. And I believe, here we go. The Planning Commission recommended these conditions be attached to the conditional use permit. One is the limitation of the area, 3,600 square feet. Second, the limitation of the hours, 4 to 2. For instance, they can't come in a month after and change it to 3 unless they come before the board for approval. The same thing on entertainment, outside activities. No outside activities, no speakers in front or back. Food, they want a little bit more information about the food, that it's a limited menu, but it's not snacks, popcorn, and chips. It's some meal items, and the applicant did give a description of those type of items at the Planning Commission meeting. Security, the establishment shall employ on-site security of supposed to be not less than 4 bouncers, and there was discussion of what's a bouncer and what's security, and apparently there is a difference in terms of legal terms of bouncers and security, and the applicant can explain that difference. But in this case, the term bouncer is used because it implies something different than a security guard, and one security officer that would typically be on the outside. So there's a 4 and 1, so there's 5 security officials that would be part of that establishment. The public entrance is on Main Street only, although they have an entrance to the back that will not be for public entrance in and out to the alleyway. The establishment shall provide for general cleanup of the outside area on Main Street on a nightly basis after closing of business. And of course, the last one, all required state and local permits be received by the operators. That's the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Well, I know that's why we have a big crowd here. I have a big stack of protest letters here, and have a file on the website of this bar, and I know there's been some questions about whether that's the exact atmosphere, or if that's just Oklahoma City or Bricktown or whatever. But there's a lot of people here, of course, that may have a morality issue with bars in particular. That's really not our purview. This is strictly a business decision and a community decision more than a morality issue. But I know we got some. Any other comments before I open this up? Okay. I will open up the floor microphone, and we'll take people that wish to speak against. Please give us your name.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Russell Cook. I have served since 1996 as the Director of Missions for the Potawatomi Lincoln Baptist Association in Shawnee, or out of Shawnee. My wife, Marcia, has substitute taught in the Shawnee School District and taught private piano lessons to many Shawnee families during these years we've been here. My daughter graduated with the 100th graduating class of Shawnee High School. She and my two sons all attended Oklahoma Baptist University. On behalf of myself, my family, and the pastors and members of 20 Southern Baptist churches with Shawnee addresses, I come before you with an appeal regarding a conditional use permit for a rock bar in Shawnee. The members of our churches number 14,686. Shawnee's population is 28,692. That means 52% of our city's population hold memberships in Southern Baptist churches. Not all, but the vast majority of Baptists in this community are opposed to a rock bar being opened in Shawnee. Mr. Kevin Bentley, one of the owners of the Rock Bar in Bricktown, OKC, has clearly stated that he wants the proposed Rock Bar in Shawnee to, quote, mirror the Rock Bar in Bricktown, end quote. The Bricktown establishment since March the 30th, 2008, has promoted, and I quote, sinful Sundays, no cover all night long, free draft till 11 p.m., Oklahoma City's unholiest rock and roll bar and lounge, morality is strictly optional, end quote. Shawnee is home to a large number of evangelical Christians who are working very hard to build good marriages and families in this community. We know the negative and often devastating impact alcohol and other mind-altering drugs have on both marriages and families. This is a community thing, it is a moral thing, but it has a lot to do with our community. We are all inviting and welcoming hundreds of college students into our community each semester whose parents do not want them exposed to immoral behavior. We do not want these young adults attempting to use alcohol, participate in promiscuous activities, and compromise their moral upbringing. Neither are we interested in turning downtown Shawnee into a nightclub environment that would repel families and shoppers rather than attract them. It would reduce the number of families that would feel safe on the sidewalks of our town. When you have a, quote, safe and clean environment, end quote, you don't need 5 bouncers on staff each night to keep it that way. We realize that we realize that your decision to reject a conditional use permit for a rock bar may displease some, but be assured that your approval of this permit will highly displease and disappoint a vast majority of the good, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens of Shawnee. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Glenn Peck. I live at 18 Comanche Circle here in Shawnee, Oklahoma. I wish to say amen to what Dr. Cook has said, but I want to add a couple of brief personal notes. On the 4th day of January 1992, my wife and I came to this city. When we came, there were signs throughout the city and on many of the promotional literature for this town saying, I quote, Shawnee, a great place to be. In fact, if you follow any of our law enforcement cars, and don't follow too close, you will find on most of those a motto for the police department, protecting a great city. I ask this question, a simple question. Will the allowing of this use make Shawnee a greater city? I do not think it will, and I urge this commission to vote no. Thank you.
My name's Harold Brown. I live in Shawnee, in and around Shawnee most of my life. On April April the 24th, 2000, lost a granddaughter because of a man leaving a bar drunk. Almost lost her son. She's 4.5 her age. She is June the 2nd, 2006, lost her great grandmother for the same reason. So we don't need pubs and bars and beer joints and dancers and people going up and down our city streets, killing and maiming our citizens.
Hi, I'm Teresa Cody. I'm Common Thread Embroidery on 115 East Main Street. I am not just here for my business, and a lot of you would like to think, some of you would like to think that I am being greedy or whatever, thinking it will just impact my business. It will do more than impact my business in a negative way. First I want to tell you that I am a big component of families, and I volunteer for an organization, which is a nonprofit organization. It's called SEF, Safe Events for Families. We organize, if you haven't heard of Boo on Bell Street. We put this together to help not only our downtown area, our Main Street, but to bring people in, families and children alike. This event is designed for nonprofit fundraisers. We bring in schools. OBU helps with the event. Many of the organizations from OBU, Youth and Family Services, schools, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts are all involved in putting this on. It takes everybody to put this on. We brought 4,000 trick-or-treaters to Main Street last year. We were recognized by Women's Day magazine last year. We do all this not for pay, but for our community. After visiting with some of our neighbors and knowing we had little time to put together any kind of formal letter to say, I put together a letter, and a couple of the other merchants hand-wrote letters. We were all struggling to try to put everything together before we could take off a few days for the holiday, which we don't get very often. We're dedicated to making our families a living and also putting back sales tax dollars into our community. If you'll notice in your packet, there's a letter there that was written. It has bullet points as to some of the concerns that we've had. We brought it before the Planning Commission, and many things were dismissed. This will create a parking problem. There has been no bars on Main Street for 14 years. I have been there 16 of the 14. There has been a reduction in crime. Some of the crimes that have been committed, I have caught a few people in the act and been able to turn them in to the police officers, and we've had good response. On one occasion, I remember a youth that was trying to break out a neighbor's window. It took us an hour to get an officer there. And can you imagine what that's like, holding a youth in citizen's arrest for an hour, waiting for an officer? This is not our police's problem. This is our whole city's problem. There's only 5 officers on average for each shift, and I've called and checked on that. That's due to sicknesses or people being off on vacation or whatever. There's a driving school within 150 feet of this establishment, which there are 16-year-olds learning to drive. We also have a mental health facility within 150 feet. A lot of those people's problems are due to alcohol. I just encourage you to read over that list. There's many other things. And in your packet, you'll also find a map. And I'll pass this one around. It is a side map showing that there was 298 calls in that area where the rock bar is located. You'll see an X on there. And the yellow area is where the large amount of calls were from. I also want to pass these out to you. These are colored, they're vivid, they're graphic. I searched through those photos looking for food or high chairs, booster chairs. Never saw any of those in any of those photos. If you could find that in any of those photos, I'd like to see it. Thank you.
I'm Nick Shepard. I'm also in downtown Shawnee, and our location is right next door to the proposed site. To give you a little bit of history on what has transpired, when we first, as downtown merchants, heard about this through the grapevine, that we might be getting a new restaurant downtown. And hey, it's going to be kind of patterned after what's in downtown Oklahoma City at first. We were encouraged and thought, hey, this might be something good. This is promising. But later it was brought to our attention that, hey, before you guys jump too fast on this, you need to look up what their website is. And you need to find out something about this place that is proposed going in. We didn't do it. I'm computer totally illiterate. So when this was brought to me, and that's what was just passed to commissioners, we looked at that and thought, well, there's something a little bit wrong here, because this is it says it's strictly 21 adult entertainment bar, and that's the way they advertise themselves. And to explore this further, if we wanted to, we should just go to their website, okcrockbar.com, and we'd find out a lot of other pictures of what we wanted to see. Well, through a little bit of help, we did, and found out some other things that we really thought were not right for Shawnee. I've been in downtown Shawnee. I was born and raised here, and I've been in downtown Shawnee now, walking the streets for at least 38 years. Okay, this is not the right thing for downtown Shawnee. As their advertisement on their webpage says, they have a webpage on the front. It says it's strictly 21. On their webpage here, they also have specific days that are theme days. One of those theme days, as was brought out earlier, is that it's on Sundays. It's Unholy Sundays, or whatever it was called. It's called Sinful Sundays, and I'd like to reiterate exactly the words coming from the bar itself, not from somebody that's writing up what they thought about the bar, from the bar themselves. Oklahoma City's unholiest rock and roll bar and lounge is now open on Sunday, reiterating what he said, and it says morality is strictly optional. Morality is strictly optional. I don't know if that's what you want for Shawnee. I don't want it for Shawnee. I know most of this crowd does not want that for Shawnee, and it is my hope that you would take into consideration the future of Shawnee for your kids, for your grandkids, if they happen to come back to Shawnee, that this is a very, very important decision tonight. And please vote no for the conditional use permit.
My name is Bill Donovan. I live at 43 Sequoia. I've been in and out of Shawnee since 1938. They don't let me stay too long. But I've been here for the last 14 years this time. Winston Churchill was reported to have said, if a man is not a liberal by the time he's 20, he has no heart. If he's not a conservative by the time he's 40, he has no brain. And I don't want to make this a conservative liberal issue, because I'm just a year away from being twice 40, which would make me an ultra-conservative. In my earlier years, I had some experience with institutions like the Rock Bar. I spent some time in the Navy and in other places in the world. And I do know what goes on in those places. But I'd like to suggest that there really is not a disconnect in this case between morality and business. There's a strong relationship between morality and business. And those businesses which are not moral will survive for a while, but eventually they fall under their own weight. And then you're left, the people that are left behind are left with a legacy. And I think over a period of time, with an organization such as this in downtown Shawnee, that it would put a stain on our name, which would limit investment in the future of downtown Shawnee. I can't see people bringing their kids into downtown Shawnee in an atmosphere like that. And as Dr. Cook pointed out, his place that needs 5 bouncers is not the kind of place that you want to come close to. I just think that for the business interests of Shawnee, that this needs a no vote. I think for the future business of downtown Shawnee, it seems to me that the linchpin for the future of downtown Shawnee, as it's been stated in your literature, is this emphasis on families. And I believe that this would be a violation of that dream and that aim and that goal. So, thank you.
Hello, my name is Diana Black, and if you hear that noise, it is absolutely my heart pounding. I appreciate you letting us speak and to hear our voices to be made known. Like I said, I had 3 children, and we frequent every business downtown quite often. And having a daughter that just turned 13 and hearing some of the ways that women are portrayed there. Wet and Wild Wednesdays. Guys come bid to oil girls down as they compete for cash prizes. And I know that you said this is more about business, not about morality. And I hear that. But my question is, the business side is, how many illnesses, it also says, do not leave the club alone. Girls are Rockstar members, do not pay a cover, do not wait in line, and do not leave the club alone. There are safety issues. There's supposed to be cleanups every night after closing. There's not supposed to be anything outside of the premises. Why would there need to be cleaning? There's going to need to be more police. There's going to be more people in the hospital with all kinds of diseases and things like that. And I just want you to take in consideration, I know many of you have daughters, to consider these places that are going to be available to people that are just now getting their feet on the ground to be able to find themselves. I just hope that they just don't find themselves there. Thank you.
My name is Todd Fisher. I'm the senior pastor of Emmanuel Baptist Church here in Shawnee. I'm also a resident of Shawnee. One note that I wanted to add to the discussion tonight is the previous speakers have mentioned that there's no disconnect between morality and business. I want to remind all of us there is no disconnect between morality and law. Every law on our book is about morality. So the argument that we cannot legislate morality really has no warrant or merit at all. The law that says I cannot murder you or steal from you is all about morality. And this body, as stewards to some degree of the governance of the city, you help apply the law, which helps us to know and to do what is right and wrong. And, I brought it up here too. Everyone's already shown it to you, but it takes about 15 seconds on this website to see that this is an amoral establishment. I find it ironic that we called this the character district. This establishment is devoid of character. If it does have character, it's character of ill repute. And some of the concerns I have in looking at the website, we put the limits. No speakers outside. It was going to be open only until Saturday. That is not the practice of the bar in Oklahoma City. They have advertised on their website events that are outside. They have the Sinful Sunday you've already heard about. I'm concerned, too, that they evidently laud themselves in being a 21 and over establishment, yet one of their promotions is a schools out bash. Most people in school are under the age of 21. So that seems to be an interesting anomaly to me as well. So again, on behalf of a lot of people, on behalf of our churches, but really just on behalf of morality and what would seem to me sanity, please vote against allowing this establishment to come to Shawnee.
I just wanted to speak up for the Planning Commission because they unanimously voted for this. But I was at that meeting, and this was basically sold to them as like a Cheers, just a neighborhood bar, and everyone's going to get together. And obviously their websites speak for themselves. They answer pretty much what's going to be going on. They have women's mud wrestling for cash. They have wet T-shirt contests. And I know we're looking for entertainment and recreation in Shawnee, but I don't think this is what we had in mind. And I think you just need to look at what you think your constituents would like, and I'm sure you'll vote correctly. Thank you.
I'll just take a moment. I'm Fran Patterson, and I've lived in Shawnee since 1951, and I'm a retired teacher. Of course, any establishment or business that would make light of honorable, clean living, first of all, would be of great concern to me. But I just wanted to mention one thing that hasn't been mentioned. On the other end of Main Street, there's a little business called Fusion Effect. And they're growing. The programs and the shows and the bands they bring are bringing in more young people on the weekends. And I think this week, I'm not trying to promote that business. I'm just saying it's there. And I think they were hoping to have maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people at one of their gatherings this weekend. Those are young people mainly, and maybe all of them. But I know they'll be drawn down Main Street to something like this, and that really is a concern of mine too. So I just want you to consider that.
My name is Pat London, and it was mentioned the percentage of on the mail out, the 300 feet around, it was mentioned that we only had 30-some-odd% on signatures. That was Friday. And I would really urge you to look at the signatures now. And also, there was a couple of things on that mail out, like the post office. My husband took a tape and measured. It's over 300 feet. So I really feel like there's a couple of entities on there that you really need to look at, and that will help us as far as our percentages. Also, I would like to remind each one of you that just a couple months ago, we had a situation where someone wanted to build storage sheds on MacArthur. And the citizens and the property owners, that was going to directly affect their lives and their property, they banded together, they came before you, and you listened to them, and you denied the storage sheds. And you did that for them, and because they came together, their community, as a group, you listened to the citizens of Shawnee. 6 months ago, something like that, there was another incident that a gentleman wanted to put a liquor store in on the corner of Beard and Farrell. And the Dunbar Association has worked very, very hard in their neighborhood and wanting to clean up their neighborhood. And they have high hopes for their surroundings. They came before you as an organized group, as an organized body. You listened to them. You listened to those citizens, and you denied a liquor store on that corner. And now then, you have a full room of Shawnee business people, Shawnee property owners, and our pastors are Shawnee citizens. And I urge you to look at this room and listen to them. Thank you.
I'm Bill Ford, and Pat and I went to school together. Lived in Shawnee all my life, just like Pat, and I'm a lot older than she is. She'll tell you that. Where'd Pat go? But anyway, as a lifelong resident of Shawnee, I hope you commissioners will see your place to vote no. I think of those in this room that have worked so hard to build a new YMCA, to build churches, to build new schools, and we all have one thing in mind, and that is to build a better Shawnee for our children and grandchildren. And this sends absolutely the opposite message to those in this community and those outside this community that are thinking of coming to Shawnee. If you want to think of just strictly economic growth, you're sending absolutely the wrong message. The people that will come here, the moms that make the decision where to send their kids to school, where to go to church, they look at things like this as absolutely the wrong thing where they want to spend their time. There are other communities that are standing up against this, and I hope we in Shawnee will totally stand up against this.
Everyone can hear me. Thank you. My husband's a Marine. I've lived in a lot of Marine towns. And let me tell you what, you don't want this bar in your downtown area. If you want this bar here, put it out in the county someplace. Put it out on 177. Do something else with it. Don't let it into your city limits. I was a police officer for the Jacksonville City Police Department. I worked at Camp Lejeune, one of the biggest Marine bases in town. Their downtown area was made up of these types of bars. They have now collapsed, and they have a whole new downtown area. But it costs the city lives, it costs the city kids, it costs the city police officers in fights in these bars. Please do not do this to your downtown district.
Can you give us your name?
Dawn Ramsey.
My name is Mary Vincent, and I own Vincent's Carpet Interiors at 117 East Main. We've been in Shawnee since 1970. There's any way you cut it, this is a nightclub. And I don't see any family-oriented in that at all. It's just like the lady said right here, I think there's a better place that's suited. Cowtown is out there. Charlie's Palace is out on 177. You know, in an area, if they want to have a place like that, have it out but not in an area. There's children that go up and down Main Street till curfew every night. I've been in town at our business. We have an alarm system. If it goes off, if you bump the windows, it goes off. I don't want that type of activity downtown. We were at 501 East Main for 15 years. Where Walls is at now, they bought our building, and there was 3 bars up in the next block, in the 400 block, of Main Street, and there's always cursing and fighting out in front of that business. They would wander in our store intoxicated, and we had to call the police to get them out. I've had experience with bars on Main Street, and there was one on West Main. They cleaned up downtown Shawnee. I was certainly glad that it was just a mess. There's cursing and fighting and vomiting, and it was just a complete mess. It's just not for our area. We're trying to make our city, for people to love. I love Shawnee. It is a wonderful place to live. I've always lived here. It's the best place in Oklahoma. And I want to just implore you to consider this, the place that it's at. There's other places that it could be located at that would be more suitable for their business. These are our businesses, our family-owned businesses that we put our lives into to raise our families. We need to consider the moral issues. I don't care. It is a moral issue. We're honest people, and I have a desire for the people not to have to be submitting. Kids going up and down, just like the lady said about the place up on where they had a skate park. There's always children downtown, young people downtown, up and down the streets at night. And this is right out in front. I just want you to vote no for this. We just don't need this in our downtown area. Thank you.
Okay, is anyone brave enough to stand up and speak for this then? That'd be the applicant?
Well,
there is a side door there, by the way.
This is really weird. I am from here also. I graduated here in '88. And
Your name, please?
Kevin Bentley.
Okay.
And I grew up here, and I respect everybody's opinion. And at this time, I do think I will change my mind and look for a new location. I feel this community... I've heard everybody's concerns, and I do feel for you, and maybe Shawnee is not the appropriate place for Rock Bar. I pretty much did a very good job, by the way. I kind of had the vision of Shawnee being maybe a future entertainment district, and maybe I've changed my mind on that now, and maybe it's not ready. And I think you have great citizens, and I'm a part of Shawnee too. I'll keep my Rock Bar in Bricktown and look for new locations. So you'll hear the last from me.
Thank you for making our job a lot easier. Well, I'll close the public hearing then. And
You ready for a motion?
I think we need a motion.
I move to accept the applicant's withdrawal.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Strand, a second by Commissioner Peterson. Well, I have a title to read, do we? So,
Don't need that.
call roll, please.
Strand.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill. Mills.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. I know that was a difficult issue, and I appreciate everyone taking
Yes,
the time
very
and
much.
showing up. And I admit the file that was given to me this morning by Nick Shepard was a little disturbing, as I do have daughters. And clarify again that we have to, of course, listen to everyone business-wise here, but we do have a look for our community that we want that to be positive. I don't think Shawnee will ever be ready for something like that. Oklahoma City, maybe in Bricktown with all the other bars and restaurants, they can kind of water that down with the 700,000 people or so they have. But that's getting a little bit too close to home here. You're right. So anyway, appreciate you guys being here, and we will move on to number 10. 10, public hearing and consider an ordinance for approval of conditional use permit to allow for the sale of beer for off-premise consumption in C3. Well, I'll wait a minute.
Give us those pictures back.
Should have just let him go first. Should have just let him go first.
Should have just taken a break, huh? We'll zoom right along now.
Right.
You guys been looking too close at that stuff.
Yeah, those aren't going to be part of the record.
It'll burn your eyes.
Take them away from John.
Okay, let's do this again. Please be quiet. We're going to have some business to do here. Thank you. Number 10, a public hearing and consider an ordinance for approval of a conditional use permit to allow for the sale of beer for off-premise consumption in C3 Automotive, Commercial, and Recreation District for property located at 1527 North Kickapoo, and a conditional use permit to allow for the sale of beer and alcohol for off-premise consumption in C3 Automotive, Commercial, and Recreation District for property located at 1529 North Kickapoo. Applicant James D. Brooks, DBA Red Ball Liquor Store and Party Shop, case P24-08. Public hearing is open. Staff report.
Yes, P-2408 concerns existing current uses that are in place and have been for many years. There's one piece of property, but on the piece of property is one structure with two businesses located side by side. At 1527 North Kickapoo, the conditional use permit is a request for the sale of beer for off-premise consumption. And at 1529 North, and that is known as the Party Shop. At 1529 North Kickapoo, the conditional use permit is a request for the sale of beer and alcohol for off-premise consumption. That is known as the Red Ball Liquor. The original application for this rezoning request included not only the area marked in the pink crosshatch on your map, but also included the area marked in green. There is an alley between these two pieces of property, the one in green and the one in the pink crosshatch. And after discussion with the applicants about the piece of property to the east of the alley, which fronts into the residential properties across the street and zoned R1 currently, the applicants withdrew that area in green from their application. So the application today only includes lots 6 and 7 of Block 1, Penn's Addition, which is 14,000 square feet, and does not include Lot 11, Block 1 of Penn's Addition. Go ahead, get it, John. On the aerials, as you can see, in the pink crosshatch is the area known as the Red Ball Store and the Party Shop, and that's lots 6 and 7. One structure, two businesses, and the area to the east of the alley, that's from the dark outline, was the area Lot 1 that was withdrawn from the application. As mentioned earlier, this business has been in place for many years. As we've had and seen in the past several months, when a use that sells beer and alcohol changes hands, changes ownerships, and has to go back for a different beer and alcohol license, we require them to come to the city for a conditional use permit to update their license in case there has been any issues the city needs to consider as part of that conditional use permit. So in the case of beer and alcohol sales for on-premise consumption or off-premise consumption, that conditional use permit only goes with the alcohol license. So this is the case in this instance. The location is in the commercial residential strip on the Kickapoo corridor. As you can see, it's basically a commercial category with a dynamic mix of medium to heavy commercial uses, commercial retail, service, office, and as I said, this is an existing use that's been there for many years. And the beer and alcohol sales have also been part of this use for many years, and because of the change of ownership is the reason they're in here today. The lot to the east of the alley is not included, it's just lot 6 and 7. The staff has been some concern with a driveway that's east of the alley, but as that's now no longer part of this application, we are just dealing with lots 6 and 7. And staff recommends, here's two pictures that you can see. There's 1527 North Kickapoo, and here's 1529 North Kickapoo, side by side there. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit on lots 6 and 7, Block 1 of Penn's Addition, 1527 North Kickapoo to allow the sale of beer for off-premise consumption, known as the party shop, and 1529 North Kickapoo, a conditional use permit to allow for the sale of beer and alcohol for off-premise consumption, which is known as the Red Ball liquor. But also to require the condition, all state and local permits need to be received as part of this condition.
Okay. Any other questions from staff? Anyone wish to speak against? Anyone wish to speak for? Close the public hearing. Consider a motion.
Move to accept staff's recommendation with the withdrawal of lot 11, block 1 considered.
Motion by Commissioner Schran.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Collier. Read the title, please.
An ordinance concerning zoning classification of the following described property located within the corporate limits of the city of Shawnee, Oklahoma, to wit, lot 6 and 7, block 1, Penn Addition, in the city of Shawnee, part of Washington County, Oklahoma, for the recorded plat thereof. Zoning for property from C3, automotive and commercial and recreation district, to C3P, automotive, commercial and recreation district, conditional use permit, amending the official zoning map of the city of Shawnee, Florida.
Call roll, please.
Sharon.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill. Mills.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, number 11, consider proposed changes to the Shawnee subdivision regulations section 40.2.8 sidewalks and consider setting a filing fee and notice requirements.
Yes, as you're aware, did you ask for staff report? Sorry.
Yes, staff. I'm sorry.
As you're aware, this has been an issue, a ongoing issue for many, many months. And there's been many committee meetings and a lot of issues. So this is what we've come with the final recommendation for the City Commission to consider. Some of the primary issues that were added to this draft are an exemption for lake area, the RE residential estates district exemptions for the interior of the RE development, not along the arterial streets. Text that deals with enlargement of existing structures, at what point is the sidewalk required and how much can you enlarge the structure before that kicks in. The requirement that if you have the existing sidewalks with gaps in it, the continuation of that sidewalk and filling of the gaps is a requirement. And the infill issue being the same. There's a clarification, expansion of design standards, most of those having to do with ADA requirements, and the primary probably change on that is arterial streets will still continue to be required the 6-foot sidewalk, but collector streets will now be required to have 4-foot with the realization for ADA requirements every 200 feet there has to be a 5 by 5 foot crossing area. Again, ADA is all an issue on all these as long as all our sidewalks need to meet those for curb ramps, passing, all the issues that deal with that. One other issue that this did talk about was clarifying how to apply for a variance to sidewalks. The subdivision regulations currently allow for variance to sidewalks when they're part of a subdivision or platting activity. But it's not clear in our subregs how to do it if it's building permit activity or some other situation. So section 42.8.f clarified that the appeal for a variance is to the planning commission in the same way that you would on a plat. There was 2 issues that were identified just prior to this going to the planning commission for review and approval. One was the term rezoning. As I'm not sure why in all the committee meetings we had, this issue wasn't brought up. That if you have a conditional use permit, for example, in the case we just saw, if that site that's been long in use in that area for many years, if there was no sidewalk in front of there, just the rezoning itself would have kicked in the requirement for the sidewalk. And in discussions with the planning commission and developers, I'm not sure it's here this evening, I think that between the staff and the rest of us, we felt this really probably was not ever the intent of the sidewalk ordinance, that we just kind of seem to just not see this word all the time. That just the rezoning in itself should not be the kick-in for the sidewalks, but actual action on the lot, building permits, curb ramps, driveways, parking lots, buildings, that actual action that requires a permit is where, subdivision activity is where the kick-in for the sidewalk should be. And so Planning Commission has recommended that the word rezoning be removed from this draft, this final draft. The other issue that came up, and we thought we would pose it, at least lay it open for the Planning Commission and City Commission to consider, is whether or not there should be a notice of some sort when someone applies for a variance to the subdivision regulations. Our Board of Adjustment is where variances to our zoning code go, and of course there's a notice requirement for that. As a discussion with the staff, we thought, well, it seems to me the minimum would be that your neighbors, those surrounding you in a neighborhood, a smaller option, should at least have that one small effort of putting a notice in the paper, just to let the public know that a variance has been requested and what it's for and where it's headed. So we put together the last section here to have a filing fee and outline how a notice would be done for a public notice. The $120 comes from, that is the cost of putting notice in the paper. Currently, the Board of Adjustment application fee is $90. However, the fee to put that notice in the paper is $120. And so we felt at least we should put in the cost of the notice in the paper. And $120 doesn't recoup anything other than the notice that we have to pay to have that put in the paper. It's a very simple notice. There's no notice to mail out notice, only the notice in the paper 10 days prior to the meeting is what's been proposed. And the Planning Commission recommended that this section be included in this final draft. If you have questions over the entire document, I'm glad to look at that.
I have a question there. Is all of the notices going to go up to $120 so that everything's
That's
$120?
something that the City Commission probably should consider, and we talked about needing to look at a lot of the fees that we have.
And what is it now, typically?
Well,
I mean, I know it varies, but
it varies. Plats, I think, around $280. PUD is $550. The Board of Adjustment is probably the one that doesn't even cover the cost of the notice. There's a $90 fee for Board of Adjustment. It costs $120 with the notice in the paper. Most of these applications require, of course, the mailing, and obviously $550 on PUD doesn't recoup anything other than the simple things of the cost of the notice and probably the mail out. I'm not aware of any study that talks about how much it actually costs for each one, because there might be 10 people, 10 properties on one notice requirement. There might be 40 or 50 on the next one. So we just looked at the issue of just the notice in the paper as $120.
can we make this where, I mean, this is going to be a continual rising cost at some point, and we're going to miss that. Is there any way to build that in where it's a current cost?
I don't know, John, is there?
Or it could be
I'm not
done
sure
once a
there
year.
is. I think it just has to come back to you for.
Maybe it should be reviewed once a year or something like that.
And that could be a good idea, is have all our filing fees, have an annual review.
Right.
And have the planning
Around budget
staff.
time maybe or something, you know.
That's what I was going to say. It's a shame that we just passed that opportunity to review what our filing costs actually are, and I hated that we got into that kind of discussion when the sidewalk topic came up. But yeah, I'm not sure that the time to get even is on this ordinance either. I mean, I really think that whatever the other fees are, I mean, if they're $90 for that, that's what this one ought to be.
That's
and
what
if
the
the staff, and if the staff needs to bring back all of the fees to us to review, then that's what we do. But we don't start getting even right here.
And
that's just my
perfectly fine.
feeling
That's where the
right
number
now.
came from.
I understand, but I think we need to look at it across the board, not just.
And then raise them all accordingly.
Yeah, whatever's appropriate.
Right. Okay.
If there's any questions on the actual ordinance, I'll answer those or go over them if you have any.
Well,
We've talked about this.
You're right. We talked a lot about this, and I tell you, we had some really productive discussion. And I want to thank the builders, Mike Little and Link Cowan, the planning commissioner, Louis Maltos, and John Holt. And of course, representing ADA was Jim Sims.
Yeah. Yes, he was at the planning
Jim
commission
Sims.
meeting, but I didn't see him this evening.
And then Linda and I served on that as well. And it was very cordial and informational, and wasn't any fist fights or blood, or it was really very well worked out. And
that doesn't mean that there may be issues that come up.
of course there will be. Of course there will be. But I think we've been very reasonable about this, and especially the part where people were just going to add on a little bit of room or something. We're making them on a sidewalk, and
They have to build on, more than 50% of that structure, so it's pretty reasonable. The builders felt like that was a good thing as well. So this is going to work.
Yeah, they brought up a
hopefully.
lot of instances of that where the old or the current ordinance didn't apply or didn't, wasn't as workable with what the true intent was. And so this language is a lot more detailed, but I think it tried to cover some of those instances for us.
Right. There may be some loopholes.
I do want to mention Jim Sims was at the Planning Commission meeting, and it seems like he brought up a concern, but it was more of a crosswalk on a median in a street.
His concern was the 4 foot on the collector streets. He feels, and he may be right, I don't know, but that sometime in the future that the ADA, the FHWA is going to change their codes to require 5 foot as minimum. But as of yet, that's not the case, and I actually talked to a gentleman from FHWA today to ask that question. He said he wasn't aware that there's any, yes, it's talked about, but there's nothing in the works to actually make that a requirement. And Jim was concerned that if they make a requirement next year that we have to come back and change our codes, and should we go ahead and put 5 foot in now? And that's a legitimate concern, but again, I think the committee talked about that issue and decided that if that happened, then we would have to go back and revisit the code.
And as we continue forward with our ADA self-evaluation too, I mean, this is something that is really going to be important in that aspect, being able to evaluate whether or not we have codes that are appropriate for our ADA requirements. And this, again, this ordinance has a lot of language in it about, even though it may be a 4 foot wide, that every 200 feet there is a place for passing or turning. I mean, we do try to recognize that need now, even though the actual travel distance is only, the width is only 4 feet. So we tried to take some of those things into consideration, but still be as understanding as we could about all needs, but we still have to meet ADA requirements. And so we put it in that way instead of the whole width of the sidewalk being 5 or 6 feet. We put in all the language about the turning areas every 200 feet.
Sure. Since you brought it up, I'm going to give you a little information. And I'll keep in touch with FHWA on the whole issue of the transition plan we talked about. And talking with him in depth again today, the contact we have, the ongoing issues has been how is ODOT going to handle transition plans for the state of Oklahoma. And I'm not sure if you know this, but we have had ODOT and FHWA in here for a guidance and a review session and learning process with them. And they are approaching quickly the format that ODOT will do the transition plan for the entire state of Oklahoma, including every state highway, as it goes through cities, towns, and all over. And next week at the ODOT's commission meeting, they are going to discuss that plan and ask for funding for that plan. Part of their plan between ODOT and FHWA is to do 2 cities, a large city and a small city, as a model city, the full transition plan for those cities, for other cities to use. And they've asked if Shawnee may be interested in being part of that. So, and of course I said yes. And that is, we have no idea how much such a plan would cost. I mean, at this point, there's just not any way to know that. But that is a possibility, and ongoing discussions with ODOT and FHWA that might occur, which would be very beneficial to the city of Shawnee if that happened.
Yes.
So that's just a little side note on that.
Very good.
Okay. Other questions? Comments? How about a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to accept the sidewalk ordinance, but with the amendment that the variance cost be, or application for variance be $90 instead of $120.
Except the planning commission's recommendations, except for the
except that, right. Okay. Yeah, because we had a revised copy in here, and that's really kind of the one I read. And with that, with the understanding that the staff needs to come back to us if we need to review filing fees and application costs.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Collier. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Sharon.
Aye.
O'Neill. Mills.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, number 12, consider contract with the Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group to share MILO system training with the Shawnee Police Department.
Well, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I'm extremely proud about this. One of my goals as we were developing our new training program is to be recognized here in the.
Excuse me, we didn't read the ordinance.
It was oh, really?
I'm sorry. I didn't.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I just saw the subdivision regulations. I wasn't paying attention to the ordinance.
An ordinance related to sidewalks, amending it. And what about emergency clause? Okay. I'm
go
sorry.
back and read it.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry, Chief.
Rewind.
I'm sorry.
I'll read the head of the ordinance. If anyone wants to make a change, make a motion to change the vote, that's fine.
Okay.
Not, just go first.
Okay.
An ordinance relating to sidewalks, amending subdivision regulations of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, Article 4, Section 40.2.8, sidewalks, providing for severability and declaring an emergency.
Can you call roll on that again? We're okay.
The preservation of the public peace, health, and safety, an emergency is hereby declared to exist by reading of this ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately upon passage and approval.
We need a motion on that.
We need a motion on that.
Do we want to go ahead and,
We need to do that?
Emergency clause?
30 days.
this is really kind of what we've been following
Right.
for recommendations to change.
Can't
or
remember the
we
last
don't.
time we did.
You're not changing fees or anything, so you could just.
What would your recommendation be?
I would say give it 30 days.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay. I'm sorry. Point of order. Don't want that to have a problem.
So we're not going to do the emergency. We're moving on, right?
That's right.
Okay. Here we go. Now,
Okay.
Chief, tell us about the Milo system training.
Well, if you ever remember playing dominoes, that's what this has been, so to speak, is the fact that there had to be a lot of things lined up to make this all possible. And it all started out with our training program, the ability to get a training building, which we became partners with Gordon Cooper Technology Center. They supplied us a building free of charge to the department to utilize out there for our whole training operation. And then we had this Milo system, which is the use of force simulator. And I've talked about that before, and we've had some stories in the paper, and several that are on the commission have shot the simulator or gone through the different scenarios. And so one of my goals of increasing our training here at the department is not only for the professionalism of our employees, but it's to be recognized here in the state of Oklahoma as a training organization. And we have done just that with this use of force simulator. The Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group, which insures a lot of agencies here in the state of Oklahoma. If you remember in the media how they talked about, or how there was an incident in Noble, an unfortunate incident where a young boy was killed. And there's a lot of the smaller departments don't have the luxury of having this piece of equipment like we do here at the Shawnee Police Department. I mean, this is an excellent training tool for our officers in making decisions as to what level of force to use. So they were looking, they heard about us, they heard about our training system, and their staff members came out and we gave them a presentation of our system. They were looking at buying a system themselves and then having one of their employees, his former officer, to go about the state and take this and set it up and train these smaller agencies that they insure on the system. But really that wouldn't be that cost effective to do that. And so since we have our system set up over at our training center on a regular basis, we talked with them and we said that we could work out an agreement where we could help train some of the cities, the officers that they insure. And we're training also their employee that works for them, but we're still providing assistance with our instructors, which our instructors, I know the mayor's been out there looking at the system. Of course, any of you folks that want to come out there, you're welcome to do so. Do a great job instructing out there. And so they recognize that. So we've this is what this agreement is. and that's for this fiscal year, where they will pay us for so many sessions that we'll be training officers from different agencies here in the state of Oklahoma, $10,000. And one of the things that you might remember that's in the budget too is the driving simulator. That's another simulator that we're looking at having for the department, not only for the police department, but for the fire department. And for any organization or any department within the city that drives a vehicle, because with a click of a button, you can change it from a police car to a fire truck, to an ambulance, to a dump truck, whatever you want to do with this. And so this money, I'm hoping, once we receive it, that we can get it put back into the pot, because we only were able to budget about $70,000 towards the driving simulator, which is going to cost about $120,000, $125,000. So I'm out visiting with all kinds of folks to see where we can raise some money and getting the assistance of our police foundation. But what you have before you here is that agreement. Should we get a driving simulator, they talked about that they would do something similar with us on the driving simulator and pay us to instruct people on it too. So I think this is a great deal. I think it's a win-win for not only the Shawnee Police Department, but other officers here in the state of Oklahoma. And I would urge you to pass this.
Plus, it gives us recognition around the state with other law enforcement agencies.
Absolutely. Right now, as far as I know, we have the most up-to-date use of force simulator in the state of Oklahoma. And even, in fact, we had a class recently where we had troopers from the Highway Patrol here. They bought one about a year ago, and it's apparently still in the box somewhere. And so they looked and saw that we had our system. So I'm very proud to say that other departments are envious of us.
All right. So, questions? Motion?
Make a motion to approve the agreement.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Collier. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Sharan.
Aye.
O'Neill. Aye. Mills.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
13, consider Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund lump sum payment from defined benefit plan and refund of contributions from the hybrid plan for Matthew Orban. This is just something we do all the time.
Technicality. Make a
Technicality.
motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner O'Neill. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill. Aye. Mills.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Sharan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. 14, consider Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund lump sum payment from defined benefit plan and refund of contributions from the hybrid and defined contribution plan for Sterling Hastings. Motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Schran.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Collier. Call roll, please.
Sharan.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill. Aye. Mills.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. 15, consider authorizing staff to proceed with tree removal from landowner's property as part of the Northridge Draining Project. Like having a creek through your yard.
Major drainage.
Okay, this item is to consider tree removal, and we titled the item in association with the Northridge Drainage Project. On page 270 of your packet, there's a memo I prepared basically, which points out this project was done in the fall of 2006. It was a replacement of two large 73-inch by 54-inch drainage culverts that had collapsed. Had been collapsed for some time. And it got to the point to where we had to have them replaced. The city budgeted money for them, and we drew up plans on it, bid it out in the fall of 2006, and the project was awarded to M.L. Young Construction. Okay. On page 272 of your package shows kind of the Northridge layout, so, and I don't have that on the PowerPoint, so apologize. Shows kind of the layout of the drainage culverts that were installed back when the Northridge was done back in the early 60s, I guess. Shows a drainage easement through there, 35 feet, but we knew that we were, in order to construct this and remove it safely and whatnot, we were required to get a additional easement or access easement, so to speak, temporary construction easement on both sides of the existing easement to allow the construction to proceed and workers to maneuver around in the yard, you know, not to be strictly confined to the exact foot of the easement. And we'd made an offer of $1,200, just a blanket offer to get that. Before we start though, I'd like to show you some pictures here real quick of the property owner's yard, where the drainage easement was. There was a nice big locust tree there in front. I don't have one here.
Sean.
Well, anyway, the tree there in the front foreground is the honey locust, and behind it was 3 large pine trees, probably about 35 feet tall. There's 3 of them, wooden fence, and that's another picture of it. I'd like you to note the corner of the house in the left part of the picture, and the retaining wall on the right side of the picture there coming down on the right of it. Picture of the backyard. Property owner had a pretty well landscaped, pretty nice. There's a lot of flowering crepe myrtles, some Bradford pears, trying to establish a nice looking lawn, whatnot. During construction though, this is the first removal. You know, the existing pipe was uncovered, just to show you, give you an idea of what the extent that we were talking about removing in their backyard. That's a picture looking from the street, from the same view as the previous 2 pictures, which shows the depth and width and extensive excavation. We've about, you know, clear cut everything in her yard and removed it. And then the next couple pictures show the rock base being established, a couple of joints pipe put in. As you can see, the trench, you know, was about, you know, 8 to 10 feet deep, a good 36, 40 feet wide from top of bank. That whole chunk there on the left side, that's off of the easement. But the property owner allowed us to keep working while she tried to negotiate the compensation for tree removals. Here's a picture of the pipes. It's being installed, just to give you some more extensive of what we're talking about. And this is the last picture here that was taken just about 3 or 4 weeks ago in her backyard. We had made the initial offer of $1,200 for the temporary access easement, so to speak, or construction easement, back in fall 2006. The property owner thought that was way too low, and she shot back a letter to me in the city that she wanted to be compensated, wanted $45,000 for all the headache we was making her go through and all the trees that were being removed and everything. Meeting was set up because I couldn't authorize anywhere near like that. So a meeting was set up with the city manager, the property owner, and her attorney, and myself. And we met in the office. We discussed some of the issues and stuff. And I left the meeting. The meeting continued on. I didn't hear anything more about it. Thought it had all been resolved somehow because we was doing under construction at the time and putting it in. And the property owner didn't seem to be bothered. You know, she was inconvenienced a lot, but she worked with us about allowing us to go ahead and continue with the project. About 4 to 5 weeks ago, early part of June, she called and wanted to know what the status of her compensation was going to be for the tree removals and stuff, and I said, I don't know, Margaret, but I'll come out and visit with you. And me and or Jeremy Brown, my engineering technician, myself, went out to see what she was concerned about. And in her backyard, there was one tree left in her backyard, and she said that she'd not gotten any word back or heard anything back about her initial proposal, that she was wanting to know what could be done. And at that time I asked her just what it is you're wanting us to do, and she said if we could remove the tree and also make the original $1,200 offer, she would be satisfied. Technically, well, not technically, this tree is off of the easement. Basically, it's on private property, so again, I don't have the authority to say, yeah, we're going to do it. So I shot an email off to the manager second week in June, and looking for some direction. Of course, during that time, there were some other issues going on, and understandably, never got back with us on that. So we're coming to you tonight for direction. I personally think it's probably reasonable, since we took every tree in our backyard, but I can't do it without authorization.
Are you talking about us taking it out or having
Oh,
it taken out?
no. We don't have the men or the equipment to do that. This is a big sycamore tree. It's over her house, and it's probably about 30-inch diameter. It's right up against the back carport and the back patio area. I did get some quotes last week on what it would cost to remove it, and got back a cost of $1,450 to cut it down to the ground. To the ground don't mean flush with the ground, it mean 18 to 2 feet high, left a stump. And then the cost to actually remove all of the stump was higher than removing the tree, just because of the location of where that's at and how they would have to go down, dig down, and make sure the patio's not damaged. But to remove the stump was $1,950. So both total together would be about $3,400, and then with my initial offer for the temporary construction easement of $1,200, that makes the total cost to the city of $4,600. So I don't know how to proceed on this, so that's why I'm asking for direction.
We should fix it. Fix the problem.
They did. In her credit, she worked with us, accommodating during construction. I mean, it's you look at some of those pictures there, it was quite
quite a project.
Really.
I move to accept staff's request for funding for tree removal.
Motion by Commissioner Strand. Second by Commissioner O'Neill. Call roll, please.
Sharon.
Aye.
O'Neill. Mills.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Take care of that.
New business?
None.
Administrative reports.
John, and then I think Chief Mathis.
I just want to give a quick update on some projects and stuff. We passed out, we put notice in the paper about construction on Main Street and those projects, and on Broadway when they're going to start to happen. We sent out flyers. We hand delivered the notes to every property business owner on Main Street and also on Broadway. We got some responses back. The notice said contracts on those, or the work on those two projects would begin the week of July 13th, I believe. And we got back some responses, and that the concern of a lot of the property owners on Main Street is that's right during rodeo week. Could we push it back a little bit? We said, yeah, that'd be fine. We could, because it's the same contractor, same company that's working on Broadway in Maine. We said, that's okay, we can move them on Broadway. And then we got some calls from the courthouse that Judge Combs' jury duty or trial starts that week, and he needs a window of like 3 or 4 days because of all the parks he may have problems with on Broadway Street, and was wanting to know if we could move it back. So even though we've had passing out flyers and stuff, we're wanting to stand here and tell you that those projects are going to start the week end of the 18th with milling and stuff. So we've pushed it back. Also on the Rosa Street project, which is the curb and gutter project west of Kickapoo all the way to Ione on Rosa. That begins Wednesday, July 9th, because there's also a water line relocation with that. And the project begins with that, with tapping the existing water line underneath Kickapoo Street, which will take about 3 or 4 days. So the northbound traffic on northbound lane will be detoured at Federal, down to Broadway, up to Midland, and then back to Kickapoo. The southbound lane on Kickapoo will remain open, but just want to let you know that people are going to be inconvenienced on that one. And they started construction milling on Union Street on that project. When they finish that, we'll move them probably over to 9th Street. And that's all I got.
Do you have
Was there another one?
Do you have a ballpark figure on Glen Collins Park when you might be able to start that?
Well, on that one, the guys doing Airport Road on that one, we were going to wait really until the end of the projects, because I talked to some of the direction or hints where they didn't want to do it during the middle part of the summer because of the July 4th holidays and stuff, because it's going to inconvenience the patrons out there that will utilize this, and it will take more than just a couple of days. Probably take 2 weeks.
So you're looking at before winter, before fall?
Oh, yeah, before winter,
okay.
Yeah.
That's about as ballpark as I get.
It should be done by at least the middle part of August for sure.
Middle part of August?
Right.
Thank you.
I just want to kind of give you a heads up. We're getting ready to announce later this week when we get with the media, the police department, we're going to sponsor a new organization called the Shawnee Police Department Police Explorer Program. And this is for young people that are from age 14 to 21 that have an interest in law enforcement. Typically the majority of the participants are like 14 to 18. And we expose them to the law enforcement profession and do a lot of activities and training them and being mentored by police officers. We received a good number of officers are volunteering to help out with this organization that we're going to start. So on July the 29th, which is a Tuesday, each month we have our citywide neighborhood watch training, which pertains to all kinds of issues, but and it's open to anybody who would like to attend. We're encouraging people that are interested in the Police Explorer program to come that evening to Gordon Cooper Technology Center. It's going to be at 6:30 p.m. and we'll be given a full report or presentation as to what the Police Explorer program is going to be like here in Shawnee. And so I'm really excited about it. I was fortunate enough to belong to a Police Explorer program when I was younger because I felt I had an interest in law enforcement, which apparently I did. I hung around for a while, but it was so advanced in this particular program and structured that the young people that participate were able to receive a high school credit hour for being part of the organization. So I think it's going to be a great thing, and just wanted to let you know about it. And we're going to be giving like I said, my public information officer is going to be giving a story to the media on that later this week. And so we're going to be repeatedly announcing it, so we hope to get a lot of people that are interested to show up and get the presentation. Thank you.
Any other?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Commissioners' comments?
Yeah, we had a lot of activities here this weekend. I want to thank all the organizers from the boat parade out of the Twin Lakes to the fireworks and the 4th of July celebration at the Expo on Friday. The Bill Stacy concert last night was very well attended, and that was very good also. We had just a lot of activities for the citizens here that I think were very well attended, very well conduct it, and I think everybody had a good time. And Commissioner O'Neill and I filled in for you, Tom, just thought I'd let you know.
So you own one.
I was gonna thank her for that.
You own one, right?
I'll fill in for, when you get an inside job, I'll fill in.
Okay, any
It
other
was
comments?
beautiful weather.
Motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Strand.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Collier. Call roll, please.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. Open the meeting for the Shawnee Municipal Authority, July 7, 2008. We have a quorum. Consider approval of consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Strand.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Peterson. Call roll, please.
Sharon.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Mills.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. Administrative reports?
None.
New business?
None.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson, second by Commissioner O'Neill. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Mills.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Sharon.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. Open the meeting for the Shawnee Airport Authority, July 7, 2008. We have a quorum. Consider approval of consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Schran, second by Commissioner Peterson. Call roll, please.
Sharon.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Mills.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. Administrative reports?
None.
New business?
None.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson, second by Commissioner O'Neill. Call roll, please.
Peterson.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Mills.
Aye.
Collier.
Aye.
Sharon.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, we are adjourned.